The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com. Well, the website is finally working. Apparently it wasn't working last week, so maybe that's why we were $20,000 behind on donations for the week last week, but we really have to make it up. Apparently a few people tried to make contributions over at the website at freespeech.org, and it wasn't working properly. I don't know the details, but we're behind, and which means Free Speech TV is behind, and this is how this network pays its bills, literally. This is how they pay their employees. And keep in mind, this entire network runs on a budget that is less than half of just the salary of a primetime MSNBC TV presenter. Half of the salary of one of those people you see in the afternoon on MSNBC pays for the entire year for 100% of everything that Free Speech TV does. This is a small network that gets a lot done with very few employees, and you know, it's really quite extraordinary. I mean, nobody is getting rich here. No, you know, we're hopefully paying decent salaries to people, but nobody is getting rich at Free Speech TV. It's a nonprofit organization. Your dollars go a long, long way when you make contributions to Free Speech TV, and you know, we get a lot done. And it's growing. We're going to be on Sling soon, which is the new way that people are cutting the cable. Louise and I do that at home. We're going to be on Apple TV if we're not already. We're on Roku. We're of course on Dish and Direct. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get, and on YouTube and everything else. Lots and lots and lots of ways to get Free Speech TV. But if there's no Free Speech TV, there's no more progressive television in America, real progressive television in America. 98% of the people watching me right now have never contributed to Free Speech TV. If you're among that group, please join our family. Now is a great time to call 877-378-8669 and become part of our movement. This is a movement. And it's an extraordinary and important one. Please join. If with a $30 gift, you get your choice of one of 4 bumper stickers: the blue Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the black This Is Not Normal bumper sticker, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $30 gift, you get that. With a $60 gift, you get the Love Conquers Hate pin from the Human Rights Campaign, Free Speech TV grocery bag, blue grocery bag, and a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $72 contribution, you get all 4 bumper stickers plus actually that's it. You get all 4 bumper stickers. They are the Free Speech TV logo, the This Is Not Normal, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, and Thom Hartmann University. With a $120 contribution, you get a copy of my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author, as well as an autographed photo of me in Cuba in front of a painting of Fidel going, "Hi." So that's with a $120 contribution. With a $240 contribution, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt, Building a Just World on the front, Standing in Unity on the back. You get the Human Rights Campaign Love Conquers Hate lapel pin. You get the autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. And you get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. With a $360 gift, you get the autographed Thom Hartmann photo from Cuba. You get the autographed book by me, Unequal Protection. You get the book When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, which is the story of Black Lives Matter. You get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. You get a one-year subscription to our on-demand podcasts. These are our audio podcasts. You get 4 bumper stickers, all 4 of them. This is not normal. Like a clown, expect a circus, Thom Hartmann University, and Free Speech TV logo. And with $480, this is the real special one, with the $480 contribution, and this, the only way you can get this DVD of Louise and my visit to Cuba is with this $480 contribution, period. It's not being sold. It's not going to be played on the air. It's only available to people who donate $480 to Free Speech TV. And it is, we're editing it as I speak, and it's going to be really nice. So you get that. You get my book on equal protection, autographed by the author. You get When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, the book about Black Lives Matter. You get the book A Visual History of America by Bonnie Siegler, Signs of Resistance. And you get a gray Free Speech TV t-shirt that on the front says Building a Just World and has the Free Speech TV logo. It's a $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, and special thanks, by the way, to Kathleen P. of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, who made this donation on Friday. And I look forward, Kathleen, to seeing you here in Portland one of these days, or maybe in D.C. We'll see how we work it out. But with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and occasionally maybe some other cities. We'll see what we can work out. But come to Portland, and we'll have lunch. We had 4 or 5 people here on Friday of last week for lunch, and it was great. We had a wonderful time. So please join us. Call 877-378-8669 now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. So happy to be with you. What a big weekend. Trump news. I was on Fox News over the weekend. I got a funny story to tell you about that. There's just a lot of stuff in the news we will be getting to. But first, Congressman Ro Khanna is with us for the hour, taking your calls to kick off the week here. Congressman Khanna represents the 17th District of California. He is the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the organization that Mark Pocan, our regular on our program, is the co-chair of. And his website, khanna.house.gov, KHANNA.house.gov, and you can tweet him at Rep, as in representative, Rep, Ro, R-O, Khanna, KHANNA. Congressman Khanna, welcome back to the program.
Great to be back on. I'm looking forward to your Fox News story.
Oh, it was a hoot. I guess I could just tell the story right now. It's a real quick one. When you go on Fox News as a liberal, you know that you're not going to be able to even complete a sentence. And so, my main mission, they booked me to defend Andrew McCabe, or speak about the issue of his being fired. And so my mission was to get the phrase Trump crime family out there. So when they asked me what was going on, I said, well, you've got 4 members of the Trump crime family, Ivanka, Jared, Don Jr., and Donald himself, who are being investigated by the FBI right now. So it looks to me like stripping the number 2 guy at the FBI of his pension is Donald Trump's way of saying to the other 35,000 FBIers who might be investigating him and his family, you mess with me and I'll destroy you personally. And they freaked out when I said Trump crime family. It was like,
well, that's great. That's great because Newt Gingrich has this whole strategy where he has explosive words and he just puts them out there. And the right's been doing this for 25 years. So I'm glad you were able to convey a message succinctly and get that out. And good for you for going on Fox and actually trying to talk to. Even if you convince 5%, that could make a difference.
Yeah, I used to go on there regularly, and then I published this book a couple of years ago in 2014 or 15 called "The Crash of 2016," and there's a whole chapter in there about Roger Ailes creating Fox News and how he tried to do it in the Nixon White House and everything, and that got me blackballed. But Roger Ailes is dead now, so I guess I'm I can go back on. So what's in your mind? And by the way, to our callers, 202-808-9925, give us a shout. And if you have questions for Congressman Khanna about himself, what he thinks, what the news is, whatever it may be, it's wide open topic wise. Congressman, what are you looking at right now as a member of Congress? What in this coming week? What are the things that you expect to be happening? And I understand that we're once again a month away from a government shutdown. Do I have that right?
Well, it depends on what happens with the budget deal. I mean, and the Democrats again. Some of us are going to hold firm on getting a DREAM Act, making sure that we do something for the Dreamers, which we've just kicked down the road, and making sure that we're not having more cuts in whether it's funding for elderly with heating insurance, whether it's funding for Medicare, for nursing facilities. I mean, if you look at the budget and some of the things they're proposing, they're just outrageous. And so let's see what happens. But it very well may be another conflict.
Yeah. What other legislative issues are before you guys right now, or what are the things that the Republicans are preventing from coming to the floor? That
one of the things that's a little bit more foreign policy related, but Bernie Sanders and Lee have brought to the floor this Yemen resolution, which is supposed to get a vote actually tomorrow. And as your listeners probably know, because they follow a lot of our foreign policy, we have been aiding Saudi Arabia in refueling their planes and providing them assistance in basically killing Yemeni civilians. Almost a million Yemenis face cholera. Many are facing possible famine. And this is something that we've been doing. We finally, in the House, Mark Pocan and I got a resolution. The leadership didn't let it go through, but it would have called for us to stop any of the refueling of the Saudis. And we got a compromise resolution through that said that at least acknowledged that we were doing this without any authorization. Well, Bernie Sanders saw what we did in the House and got Mike Lee on it, and now we actually
who's a Republican, by the way, we should know.
A Republican, right? Yeah. And we actually Dick Durbin joined the resolution. So you have actually a chance that the United States Senate may pass this, which would be remarkable, and would finally end our aid to the Saudis in the Yemeni civil war. It's probably the largest humanitarian disaster in the world, given the suffering, and it's furthering this war with Iran. I mean, we're basically propping up Saudi Arabia in any possible way we can because we don't want Iran to continue to develop any ties in Yemen. And it's really absurd on its face. When you go back home, I was just back home this weekend, and you ask someone, well, should the United States be supporting the Saudi regime in a civil war in Yemen against the Houthis because of Iran's interest in Yemen? And should your tax dollars be going to that? I mean, I don't think there's any ordinary citizen in the country would say yes, and yet that's been our foreign policy.
Yeah, and you read through Madison's notes on the convention, on the Constitutional Convention of the summer and early fall of 1787, and repeatedly, I mean, over and over and over, particularly in the debates on Article 1, Section 8, and in the early discussions that led to the later formation of the Second Amendment, the two things that many of the founders were flipped out about, and these were people who had fought the Revolutionary War, they had been through it. The two things that they were flipped out about was that the United States might end up with a permanent standing army during times of peace. And they pointed out that repeatedly standing armies had been, Jefferson's phrase was, instruments of mischief. And what they were talking about was that, in Europe in the preceding couple hundred years, more often than not, when countries got overthrown, they got overthrown by their own armies. That military coups were a common thing. And so they didn't want to have standing armies during time of peace, or at least this large faction. And so they did three things. The first was they put into Article 1, Section 8 that Congress can fund roads forever. Congress can fund, the patent office forever, but they can only fund the Army, and you can fund the Navy forever, but you can only fund the Army for 2 years, period. Every 2 years, Congress has to sit down and decide whether we should even have an Army, or at least that was the founders' intent, and that's repeated over and over again in those papers as well as in the Federalist Papers. Number one. Number two. They said that this was the genesis of the Second Amendment, basically, that rather than having a standing army, every state should have a state militia that can be called up, and that debate informed the Second Amendment. And number three, they said that the power to wage war is exclusive to Congress. It's not in the branches. It's not in the executive branch. Now, since World War II, we've had the Korean conflict, the Vietnam police action. Now we've got Afghanistan, Iraq. None of these were declared wars. There was arguably congressional authorization for Afghanistan and Iraq, just like there was for Vietnam. But I would say that that's unconstitutional and illegal. Now we're involved with the Saudis in Yemen. We took down Gaddafi in Libya. We're involved in hot wars in, as best I can tell, 7 or 8 countries right now. And isn't it time to reconsider all this? And might you have, and if you agree with me on this, might you also have some colleagues among the Rand Paul libertarian faction of the Republican Party?
You're absolutely right, Tom. In fact, Rand Paul and I had written an op-ed together in the LA Times about 6 months ago saying we need a foreign policy of restraint. I mean, you cited the founders. We cited John Quincy Adams, who said, we can root for people around the world in terms of their aspirations for democracy, but we can't be going and sending our troops there because we often don't know who's on the side of liberty or not, and we would be perceived, according to Adams, as a dictatorial force, not as liberators. Just to add to your list of interventions that I don't think have been in our strategic interest, you could look at what we did in Ukraine, where Yanukovych basically wanted to have a tripatriot deal with the European Union and the Russians. We didn't agree to that. We insisted on NATO, Ukraine being part of NATO. I mean, that was George W. Bush's policy. And then when Yanukovych wanted to leave, and there was some aspect of trying to get him to leave and have an election, we basically supported a coup. So we have extended our intervention in ways that I don't think are in the strategic interest. And you have both progressives, people like Mark Pocan and Barbara Lee and Bernie Sanders on the one hand questioning that policy from a human rights orientation. But you also have people like Rand Paul and Walter Jones and Thomas Massey, Republicans and libertarians, saying this is not in the United States' interest. We really need to rethink this neoconservative, neoliberal view of the use and projection of force. And I think you have people around this country saying, what have we achieved over the last 15 years from Afghanistan to Iraq to Syria, Libya?
We're hitting a break here, sir.
Is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be back with Congressman Ro Khanna taking your calls right after this. It's coming up on 18 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Coming up on 18 minutes past the hour. Congressman Khanna, you're still with us?
I am.
Just a reality check. We've had some funky things with our audio board. You were able to hear that music coming into the break, right?
I was.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. Let's see. Pick up some phone calls now?
Absolutely.
Did you want to finish your thought, by the way?
No, I finished. I just agree with you. And Katrina Van Hooterville has been really great on this, where she has urged the Democratic Party to have a strong progressive platform on foreign policy. I mean, the idea that so much of our Congress went along with Trump's military budget increases, $80 billion defense increases to the Obama budget, I think is just wrong. I mean, we could fund free public college for that military increase. And so I think the Democratic Party, progressives, need to offer an alternative progressive foreign policy vision grounded in more restraint, which is in our national interest and may avoid these mistakes of interventionism that I think breeds more terrorism than it's preventing.
Yeah, agreed. John, John in Minneapolis, you're on the air with Ro Khanna.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the Senate banking bill, let's see, it was 2155. Why it is that we have to revisit this issue again. It's really going to, as far as from what I've read, it's going to undermine Dodd-Frank. And, you know, people of color suffered really greatly. I mean, much more so than white people did. And then also it's going to loosen the rules on discrimination so that they don't have to report who they give loans to, give loans to. So it's already going to aggravate a situation that, as far as I'm concerned, you know, they're just redlining, I would say, areas of cities that are mostly African American. And, you know, it's going to there's 40 banks that will be affected, and it is going to allow some of the biggest banks to go unregulated, essentially, and about, not 40 banks, 25 banks, and about 12 of those are ones that have profits from gun manufacturers. I mean, this is a really, really interesting...
We just have a minute to the break, John. Let's let Congressman Khanna respond.
Sure.
Well, I agree with you completely. I had tweeted out that I don't understand how 16, 17 Democratic senators can be voting for this. I don't know a single person. When I go back and talk to people, they want us to do things on gun violence, on health care, and education. No normal person, Republican or Democrat, says, well, you really need to roll back the regulations on Wall Street. And what this bill does, you're absolutely right, is it says, well, now we are not going to apply regulations on banks unless they have $250 billion. The past threshold was $50 billion. Well, we know that there are banks that failed in the 2008 crisis that were worth about $200 billion. And under this new regulation, the new bill, they won't be regulated. So there is just no justification. I mean, there's no outcry for this kind of policy. And it's just absurd to say that these are community banks. I mean, there are no community banks that are $200 billion. By the way, one reason, if you talk to economists, why people are not getting loans, it's because we don't have enough wages and we don't have a strong enough middle class and a lack of consumer demand. And people they're not buying enough products to get loans. That's the issue that we ought to be solving, not deregulation of the banks.
Yeah, it all tracks back to 37 years of Reaganism. We'll be right back.
On April 15th, 1949,
And Joe in Cupertino, California. Joe, you're on the air.
Congressman Khanna, this is Joe Bloom. I really appreciate all of you're doing to assault weapon ban with Steve Kerr. I think that's a great idea. You got to keep the ball rolling with this because I think the kids are going to make the difference. Having seen what happened at the high school, just reinforms that we're really got to push this issue. I think this could be an election issue if we were to be able to implement it. What's your position?
Well, Joe, I appreciate it. We had Steve Kerr, the Warriors basketball coach, do a town hall with high school kids. And Steve Kerr's father was a victim of gun violence in 1984. And he was just so authentic and raw, and he was talking to young folks. And we had one of the students, Matt Deitich from Parkland, out. And I'll tell you, I was so impressed. The person who stole the show was Matt Deitich, this young 20-year-old, not just because of his passion, but because of his knowledge. Someone asked Steve Kerr about, well, Chicago has the toughest gun laws, and why is violence still so high? And he gave a good answer. And then Matt Deitich got up and said, well, the biggest cause of crime in Chicago is from guns from Indiana, and why you need a federal law. So these students have done their homework. They're knowledgeable, and Steve Kerr's message was make this your number one issue when you go to the polls to some of these young folks. It's your safety, and I think he really broke through. I think this next generation, and Tom and I have talked about it, like the Vietnam War, like civil rights, I think this next generation is going to finally break through and make a difference on gun violence.
Charles, in Opelika, Florida. Charles, you on the line? No, Charles. Okay, let's try Curtis in Los Angeles. Curtis, we got a minute and a half to the break here. You got a quick question for Congressman Ro Khanna?
I sure do, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. First thing I wanted to ask Congressman Khanna, what was your inspiration for running for office, your first time around, and how have you enjoyed it thus far? And what advice would you have for a newcomer, first-time congressional hopeful such as myself? And what can I do to get the attention of the DNC and DCCC to make this thing happen here in the 23rd District?
Well, thanks for running and being out there. I lost my first campaign. I ran against the war in Iraq in 2003 in an anti-war primary and got 20% of the vote, but I was very, very proud of standing up against the war. My inspiration was my grandfather. He spent 4 years in jail in Gandhi's independence movement in the 1940s. And even though I was born here and my parents immigrated in the 60s, I had visited him many times in India, and he told stories of his time in the Indian independence movement, and that really gave me a sense of human rights and a sense of just foreign policy, and that was my beginning in politics. I would just say, in terms of advice, be persistent. You know, the party never endorsed me in my first run. It probably didn't, and it didn't endorse me when I won. You have to build a grassroots base. You don't need the party as much anymore. You can do it by getting people to knock on doors, by being active on social media, by having a message out there. And if you're persistent and you build a real support in the community, I wouldn't worry about the party and what they are doing. Some of us are fighting for the party to be more inclusive of outside voices. I personally have said we shouldn't default endorse incumbents. That's a ridiculous rule. But until we change, we need build a grassroots campaign.
Congressman Ro Khanna taking your calls here on the Thom Hartmann Program for the hour. We'll be back right after this break at the bottom of the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Your calls for Congressman Ro Khanna right after this. Well, the website is finally working. Apparently it wasn't working last week, so maybe that's why we were $20,000 behind on donations for the week last week, but we really have to make it up. Apparently a few people tried to make contributions over at the website at freespeech.org, and it wasn't working properly. I don't know the details, but we're behind, and which means Free Speech TV is behind, and this is how this network pays its bills, literally. This is how they pay their employees. And keep in mind, this entire network runs on a budget that is less than half of just the salary of a primetime MSNBC TV presenter. Half of the salary of one of those people you see in the afternoon on MSNBC pays for the entire year for 100% of everything that Free Speech TV does. This is a small network that gets a lot done with very few employees, and you know, it's really quite extraordinary. I mean, nobody is getting rich here. No, you know, we're hopefully paying decent salaries to people, but nobody is getting rich at Free Speech TV. It's a nonprofit organization. Your dollars go a long, long way when you make contributions to Free Speech TV, and you know, we get a lot done. And it's growing. We're going to be on Sling soon, which is the new way that people are cutting the cable. Louise and I do that at home. We're going to be on Apple TV if we're not already. We're on Roku. We're of course on Dish and Direct. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get, and on YouTube and everything else, lots and lots and lots of ways to get Free Speech TV. But if there's no Free Speech TV, there's no more progressive television in America, real progressive television in America. 98% of the people watching me right now have never contributed to Free Speech TV. If you're among that group, please join our family. Now is a great time to call 877-378-8669 and become part of our movement. This is a movement, and it's an extraordinary and important one. Please join. If with a $30 gift, you get your choice of one of 4 bumper stickers, the blue Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the black This Is Not Normal bumper sticker, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $30 gift, you get that. With a $60 gift, you get the Love Conquers Hate pin from the Human Rights Campaign, Free Speech TV grocery bag, blue grocery bag, and a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $72 contribution, you get all 4 bumper stickers plus actually that's it. You get all 4 bumper stickers. They are the Free Speech TV logo, the This Is Not Normal, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, and Thom Hartmann University. With a $120 contribution, you get a copy of my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author, as well as an autographed photo of me in Cuba in front of a painting of Fidel going, "Hi." So that's with a $120 contribution. With a $240 contribution, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt, Building a Just World on the front, Standing in Unity on the back. You get the Human Rights Campaign Love Conquers Hate lapel pin. You get the autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. And you get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. With a $360 gift, you get the autographed Thom Hartmann photo from Cuba. You get the autographed book by me, Unequal Protection. You get the book When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, which is the story of Black Lives Matter. You get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. You get a 1-year subscription to our on-demand podcasts. These are our audio podcasts. You get 4 bumper stickers, all 4 of them. This Is Not Normal, Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, Thom Hartmann University, and Free Speech TV logo. And with $480, this is the real special one, with a $480 contribution, and this, the only way you can get this DVD of Louise and my visit to Cuba is with this $480 contribution, period. It's not being sold. It's not going to be played on the air. It's only available to people who donate $480 to Free Speech TV. And it is, we're editing it as I speak, and it's going to be really nice. So you get that. You get my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author. You get When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, the book about Black Lives Matter. You get the book, A Visual History of America by Bonnie Siegler, Signs of Resistance. And you get a gray Free Speech TV T-shirt that on the front says Building a Just World and has the Free Speech TV logo. It's a $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, and special thanks, by the way, to Kathleen P. of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, who made this donation on Friday. And I look forward, Kathleen, to to seeing you here in Portland one of these days, or maybe in D.C. We'll see how we work it out. But with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and occasionally maybe some other cities. We'll see what we can work out. But come to Portland, and we'll have lunch. We had 4 or 5 people here on Friday of last week for lunch, and it was great. We had a wonderful time. So please join us. Call 877-378-8669 now. Thank you. Welcome back. Congressman Ro Khanna of California, the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, taking your calls for the hour. And Congressman, you're still with us?
I am. I'm impressed to be on a show that discusses Hobbes and Locke as opposed to the usual stuff that goes on in the media. So
That's that, during the breaks when most of our commercial stations are playing news, our Pacifica stations, carry us continuously. And so we do book reports, and that was, and I read from books, and that was from my book, Cracking the Code, a book I wrote back in 2010 about how Democrats can use NLP strategies to win elections. So anyway, for what it's worth. Stephen, and thank you for your kind words. Stephen in Sacramento, California, you are on the air with Congressman Ro Khanna.
Hello, Congressman Ro Khanna. I wanted to ask you for your support in democratizing the enterprise, and specifically H.R. 2092, the Promotion of and Expansion of Private Employee Ownership Act of 2017. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd have to look at the act, but in general, if what it does is give employees stock or ownership in a company, I would be for that. I mean, I think that there is a lot of room where we can give workers more of a stake in profits, and that would actually help productivity, and it would help raise wages. Other countries like Germany have much more of a role for workers in their economy. So I'm happy to look at the details of the bill, but if that's what it does, then I would be supportive.
William in Maywood, Illinois, you are on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Good morning. I was just thinking about the, thanks for taking my call, but I was just thinking about this military parade that Trump wants to have. And now they've okayed it just so that they won't have any tanks in the parade. But do you think there's something a little deeper than him just wanting to have a military parade? I don't think if he brings the troops out there, they're not going to be put back up. And there should be somebody really watching the military right now with the atmosphere that's going on in this country right now for it suppressing, everyday rights of the citizens.
I think Rand Paul actually had the best response to this, and he said he'd be all for a military parade if we brought all our troops home from Afghanistan, and then we can have a parade honoring them. But to have a parade to whip up jingoistic sentiment and have greater budgets into defense and increasing our military spending at the expense of the real investments we need, which are in public colleges and vocational education and providing people with health care, is just misguided priorities, and that's what I fear. I mean, I'm also concerned about his trampling on institutions and abuse of power, as you've pointed out. I don't think he needs the military to do that. He's doing that right now with the Justice Department. But my biggest concern with the military parade is it's going to keep up his jingoism for more military budgets and more interventionism overseas.
Brian in Albuquerque, New Mexico, listening on 1350 AM. Brian, you're on the air with Congressman Ro Khanna.
Hello, Congressman. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and back in 2009, I had filed a rescheduling petition for cannabis with the DEA, trying to get cannabis taken out of Schedule 1. And 2016, August, I was able to actually finally get a settlement in that. And the DEA was forced to stop blocking access to research and to allow more people to grow cannabis for research purposes. They changed their policies in accordance with that requirement. And then Jeff Sessions came along and ordered Chuck Rosenberg, the head of the DEA, to just kind of sit on these applications from prospective new growers and to keep blocking the research. So May last year, I filed a new rescheduling petition demanding the cannabis be taken out of federal control entirely and turned over to the states, because the DEA just can't be trusted to enforce these medical decisions that are being recommended by Health and Human Services and the FDA and NIDA from my previous rescheduling petition. Shortly after that, the head of the DEA, Chuck Rosenberg, resigned over this issue. And the new head of the DEA, I was able to get him to reject the new rescheduling petition. So I'm actually in court out in the District of Columbia right now, in the Court of Appeals, with a petition for review. But what is it going to take to get Congress to actually act on this medical cannabis issue and force DEA to start doing its job, and or to get Congress to pass a law removing cannabis from control under the Controlled Substances Act and allowing that control to be managed by the states?
Well, I appreciate, first of all, your activism. I think you're making a huge difference. I'm on a bill I introduced with Barbara Lee and Cory Booker called the Marijuana Justice Act, which would completely remove marijuana from being a drug that could be prosecuted. And more than that, it would expunge the prior convictions of people who just had possession. Because one of the biggest problems with our prosecution regarding marijuana offenses is the racial disparity and the economic disparity of people who end up in prison, or you have some arrest record that ruins their employment prospects. So I think that this is something that is going to happen. The question is, will it be 2 years, 4 years, 6 years? I think it's very much like the marriage equality debate. If you talk to millennials, if you talk to younger voters of both parties, they think it's obvious that we shouldn't be locking people up for the use of marijuana. Of course, California already has legalized it, and Sessions is going after California by overturning the Cole memo, and now banks in California may be at risk if they take money from those who are engaged in any part of the marijuana industry. But we are fighting hard back against Sessions to frankly recognize the states' rights in having the legalization of marijuana. So it's very much on the radar of certainly progressives in Congress, and I applaud your activism.
David in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hello, Congressman. I had wanted to get your opinion on the recent Democratic election in Pennsylvania. It seemed to me, from what I gathered, was that the Democrats won from Trump fatigue, and I wonder, are they going to continue that strategy for the 2018 midterms, in your opinion? Because Hillary ran on that exact same issue about how bad Trump was. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think the platform should be for Democrats in the midterms.
Well, look, I supported Conor Lamb, but Bill Maher had a hilarious monologue on this where he started out saying, he showed a clip of Conor Lamb saying, "I will not vote for Nancy Pelosi," as his main ad. And he said, how does an election in a special district where the Republican is resigning for hypocrisy because he's having his girlfriend get an abortion while being pro-life turn into an election about whether Nancy Pelosi should be leader? So I think the point, in my view, is that while we need to recognize different candidates have different districts, I believe we need to run on a bold economic platform. I think that has to be about making public colleges debt-free, Medicare for all, a $15 minimum wage, massive investments in education and vocational training, in broadband so people have access to the jobs of the future. I think we need a bold, inspiring economic vision. And, of course, the progressive budget has that. There are a lot of us who believe the progressive budget should be much more part of the Democratic Party's platform. And we've been pushing for that because I think you have to inspire people and you have to lead with strength and with conviction, and people will follow.
Marcia in Englewood, Florida. You're on the air with Congressman Ro Khanna.
Hi, Hi, Tom. Thanks again for everything you do. And hi, Congressman. I'm
Hi,
very
Martha.
proud of everything you do. I have one question that's got me confused since Trump's new budget, where he cut the taxes to corporations and billionaires, and it states that it cannot, under any future presidents or Congresses, can change it. I thought you can't write something like that without a constitutional amendment. You can't make something permanent forever without a constitutional amendment. Where am I going wrong here?
Ma'am, I think you're right. I mean, you can't. He may hope that, and the Republicans may hope that. And frankly, the record of Democrats when we do get into office isn't that great. We often, they cut the tax rates for these corporations by 15%. We finally get a Democrat elected, and then we'll raise it by a few percent, but we're arguing on their terms. But we will have the possibility of raising the tax rates back to where they should be. I don't think we should compromise. I mean, when the Senate Democrats came out with a proposal saying, well, let's raise the rates back up to 25%, that's where we're arguing on Republican terms, that, okay, we should just restore part of their massive giveaway to corporations. Look, I represent a district with Google and Apple and Silicon Valley. I'll tell you, they do not need more tax cuts. They are going to go create wealth and jobs. They don't need tax cuts. What they do need is people in this country to get a basic education, to be able to buy their products, to be able to have the skills to have the jobs of the future. And what we ought to be doing is taxing those companies on their overseas profits, taxing them at the 35% that was the corporate rate, and using that money to invest in education and infrastructure and helping build the middle class of this country. We certainly can do that. We just need, hopefully, a Democratic president who would be willing to do that and a Democratic Congress.
Yeah, which means we all need to be sure that we're registered to vote. All our friends are registered to vote. You let everybody know about progressive media, and let's make this election a huge one. Congressman Ro Khanna taking your calls for the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. His website, Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep. Ro, R-O, Khanna. And we'll be right back with more of your questions for him.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Congressman Khanna is also the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Rich in Mission Viejo, California. You are on the air with Congressman Khanna. Rich?
Yeah, hello. Hi, Tom. I really appreciate your show. And I don't understand what people don't seem to realize, that in 9/11, the Wahhabism was the thing that created 9/11. And everybody on those planes, with the exception of two, were Saudi Arabians. So why are we so friendly with Saudi Arabia when they attacked us in 9/11? They did reconnaissance. They did all kinds of stuff before 9/11. That's been proven, okay? And I just don't understand why we're so in love with them, because they're a destabilizing force over in the Middle East. They're not good.
So, Congress.
The other thing I wanted.
Your phone is falling apart, Rich. Congressman Khanna, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. Bernie Sanders gave a speech in Missouri about 6 months ago where he talked about reshifting American foreign policy away from Saudi Arabia and recognizing that that alliance is not in our strategic interest. The neoconservatives have this view that Iran is growing in power and that somehow Iran needs to be checked in a balance of power politics way. Well, this is the same misleading thinking that led us to arm Saddam Hussein in Iraq against Iran. It's the same sort of balance of power misleading thinking that led us to arm the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. And we're, again, sort of making the mistake that we made time and again in history by aiding the Saudis as a check to Iran. And that type of thinking has not been in our interest. we ought to really re-examine that alliance. It's because there's a whole generation of Yemenis growing up thinking that it's our bombs that are responsible for their relatives' deaths, and that's certainly not in the U.S. strategic interest.
Yeah, but it is, in fact, our bombs. I mean, they say made in USA on them. We're supplying them with the ordnance. Do you see any possibility of any kind of breakthrough in our foreign policy positions? We discussed this earlier. We just have a minute to the break here. Not enough time to bring in a caller. We discussed this earlier that this was not the way it was intended, that America would be on a permanent war footing without the approval of Congress, and that we would be, Pax Americana. I mean, your thoughts?
Well, Tom, I'm encouraged that there are actually some libertarian Republicans who have joined progressives in understanding that this is not consistent with our Constitution or our values or our national interest. And there are people calling for re-examining the relationship with Saudi Arabia, re-examining the interventionism. We still have a long way to go because the leadership is not there. But you see this odd coalition with progressives and, frankly, people like Rand Paul and libertarians questioning what has taken place in American foreign policy over the last 15 years.
Yeah, and a fine thing it is, frankly. And the fact that we're still occupying two Muslim countries, Afghanistan and Iraq, after all these years, and we know how occupations work, right? We tried this in South Vietnam. This is crazy. Congressman Ro Khanna is with us, taking your calls for the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls for Congressman Khanna in just a minute. We're coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. His website, khanna.house.gov, Khanna, and you can tweet him at Rep, R-E-P, Ro, R-O, Khanna. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Ro Khanna, Congressman Ro Khanna of the Congressional Progressive Caucus fame and representing California's 14th is on the line with us. And Saeed in Far Rockaway, New York. If I'm saying your name right, you are on the air with Congressman Khanna.
No, it's Saeed. But
okay. Thank you.
Anyway, good morning in Eastern time anyway. Congressman, boy, I wish you were our congressman here in New York. But anyway, I would like for you to speak on patriotism and the lack of patriotism here in this country. It's apparent that there are a lot of people who have a misconception of the word patriotism and the actions that fit that. I'm going to get off the air and let you speak.
Congressman Khanna, I should mention, by the way, I said you were the 14th. It's the 17th District of California. Go for it.
Thanks. Well, Saeed, I think liberals should not be apologetic in talking about our patriotism. I was born in Philadelphia in 1976. I'm a bicentennial baby. My view is what makes me patriotic is we're a nation not based on blood or culture. We're a nation based on an idea that every person has the opportunity to pursue their dreams and has basic liberty and equality. And if we can pull that off as a nation in the 21st century, where we have people literally from around the world with functioning in a multicultural democracy, that would be unprecedented in human history to have that kind of a nation. And so I think that the liberal vision is a patriotism consistent with our deepest founding ideals. I think what often you hear of conservatism is they want to appeal to the base instincts of cultural protectionism, but that's not America. I mean, we're a creedal nation. We're a nation based on an idea. So I definitely believe that we have a strong claim to patriotism.
Dion in Round Lake, Illinois. You are on the air with Congressman Ro Khanna.
Yes, our parents have failed us, and I agree with the activists in Parkland Street. I wanted to know why is there free college for 2 years in Tennessee but not anywhere else?
You're talking about free community college.
Yeah, well, I think Tennessee is a great model. Look, there was a movement in this country from 1911 to 1940 to get high school to be universal. That made a huge difference. Then, frankly, it was Eisenhower who recognized after we won World War II that we need our veterans to get a college education and had the GI Bill. And a third of college graduates were returning veterans who benefited from the GI Bill. Of course, African Americans didn't. And when you talk about reparations and with some of the congressional black members, they'll talk about how their own parents or grandparents didn't benefit from the GI Bill. But put that aside, our country said we need to invest in people getting an education. Now we know. I mean, we know that the digital age, the technology makes it necessary for people to have some skills beyond high school, that a lot of the jobs that are just repetitive jobs will be automated. And so it would be malpractice for our country not to say that we want to make sure that vocational education, community college, frankly, four-year college, if you have the desire to go to college, it should be you should not have to have any debt. You should be able to go for free at community college and pay a nominal amount and go to public college. Let me make one final point. You know, I had a very privileged education. I got to go to Yale Law School. I took out $150,000 of loans to do it, and my parents signed the guarantee on that loan. Why? Because they had gone to college. They knew that, okay, if I go and do that, I'll probably make it back and be able to pay it off. Well, a lot of people don't have that kind of background. They're the first in their generation to go to college. They would never sign their parents would never sign for $100,000 or $150,000 of loans, and they end up not going to college or dropping out or doing something else. The biggest investment we could make in this country is to give people some form of education. By the way, for the $80 billion that Donald Trump wants to increase the military budget, if you took that money and you put it towards public education, you could actually pay for free public college in this entire country. And so it's a question of values, not a question of money.
It's also our intellectual infrastructure, is it not? I mean, you could position this as an infrastructure argument, as I would say Eisenhower did in the 50s.
Absolutely, it's about developing our human capital. I mean, it's exactly, and the anti-intellectualism of the Republicans, which has just shocked me, is their attack on universities, their attack on taxing the endowments of universities. Our universities, our public colleges, these are in some ways the economic factories of the 21st century. It's what gives us a comparative advantage in research, in having people who are going to start the new companies. And so you've got folks here. It's not just a question of fairness; it's a question of our economic growth. And my belief is the progressive values of investing in universities, investing in education is going to make us far more competitive than the Republican view of just giving these tax breaks to an investor class who, by the way, may not even invest that money in the United States.
Yeah, well, and they're not, or at the most they're doing share buybacks to jack up their own profits. Congressman Khanna, we have less than a minute left, not enough time to bring in another caller. What do you see coming up this week that we need to be paying attention to in the legislative agenda and in the news cycle in general?
Well, just as we started the conversation on the shutdown, it'll be interesting to see if the Republicans have the votes to get the $1 trillion. They have, of course, as you know, a Freedom Caucus that often balks at any spending. If they don't have the votes and if they come to the Democrats, I think we, before we vote, need to really insist and hold the line on getting some action for the Dreamers and a Clean Dream Act, getting some action on gun violence. We should be very firm in our priorities if they're going to come to us to ask us for votes. So I think that budget debate will continue to play out. And the gun violence debate, there's still some of us demanding action. I mean, the only thing they have done is a bill to increase school safety that has nothing to do with gun violence. And so the two places where you're hearing people saying, please get something done, are often on immigration, that we don't want families tore apart, and on gun violence. And it's not that the Republicans disagree. Just to be clear, it's not that
we're out, sir.
You're listening
Congressman
to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com. Well, the website is finally working. Apparently, it wasn't working last week, so maybe that's why we were $20,000 behind on donations for the week last week, but we really have to make it up. Apparently, a few people tried to make contributions over at the website at freespeech.org, and it wasn't working properly. I don't know the details, but we're behind, and which means Free Speech TV is behind, and this is how this network pays its bills, literally. This is how they pay their employees. And keep in mind, this entire network runs on a budget that is less than half of just the salary of a primetime MSNBC TV presenter. Half of the salary of one of those people you see in the afternoon on MSNBC pays for the entire year for 100% of everything that Free Speech TV does. This is a small network that gets a lot done with very few employees, and you know it's really quite extraordinary. I mean, nobody is getting rich here. No, you know, we're hopefully paying decent salaries to people, but nobody is getting rich at Free Speech TV. It's a nonprofit organization. Your dollars go a long, long way when you make contributions to Free Speech TV, and you know, we get a lot done. And it's growing. We're going to be on Sling soon, which is the new way that people are cutting the cable. Louise and I do that at home. We're going to be on Apple TV if we're not already. We're on Roku. We're of course on Dish and Direct. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get, and on YouTube and everything else. Lots and lots and lots of ways to get Free Speech TV. But if there's no Free Speech TV, there's no more progressive television in America, real progressive television in America. 98% of the people watching me right now have never contributed to Free Speech TV. If you're among that group, please join our family. Now is a great time to call 877-378-8669 and become part of our movement. This is a movement, and it's an extraordinary and important one. Please join. If with a $30 gift, you get your choice of one of 4 bumper stickers: the blue Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the black This Is Not Normal bumper sticker, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $30 gift, you get that. With a $60 gift, you get the Love Conquers Hate pin from the Human Rights Campaign, Free Speech TV grocery bag, blue grocery bag, and a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $72 contribution, you get all 4 bumper stickers plus actually that's it. You get all 4 bumper stickers. They are the Free Speech TV logo, the This Is Not Normal, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, and Thom Hartmann University. With a $120 contribution, you get a copy of my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author, as well as an autographed photo of me in Cuba in front of a painting of Fidel going, "Hi." So that's with a $120 contribution. With a $240 contribution, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt, Building a Just World on the front, Standing in Unity on the back. You get the Human Rights Campaign Love Conquers Hate lapel pin. You get the autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. And you get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. With a $360 gift, you get the autographed Thom Hartmann photo from Cuba. You get the autographed book by me, Unequal Protection. You get the book When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, which is the story of Black Lives Matter. You get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. You get a one-year subscription to our on-demand podcasts. These are our audio podcasts. You get 4 bumper stickers, all 4 of them. This is not normal, like a clown, expect a circus, Thom Hartmann University, and Free Speech TV logo. And with $480, this is the real special one, with a $480 contribution, and this, the only way you can get this DVD of Louise and my visit to Cuba is with this $480 contribution, period. It's not being sold, it's not going to be played on the air, it's only available to people who donate $480 to Free Speech TV. And it is, you know, we're editing it as I speak, and it's going to be really nice. So you get that. You get my book on equal protection, autographed by the author. You get When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, the book about Black Lives Matter. You get the book A Visual History of America by Bonnie Siegler, Signs of Resistance. And you get a gray Free Speech TV t-shirt that on the front says Building a Just World and has the Free Speech TV logo. It's a $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, and special thanks, by the way, to Kathleen P. of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, who made this donation on Friday. And I look forward, Kathleen, to seeing you here in Portland one of these days, or maybe in D.C. We'll see how we work it out. But with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and occasionally maybe some other cities. We'll see what we can work out. But come to Portland, and we'll have lunch. We had 4 or 5 people here on Friday of last week for lunch, and it was great. We had a wonderful time. So please join us. Call 877-378-8669 now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I wanted to talk about Cambridge Analytica and the weaponization of Facebook and other social media. There are a couple of really important points to this. One very, very large one that are being completely either ignored or overlooked by the mainstream media in the United States. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's because they just don't understand it, or if what I'm going to say is so self-evident they don't feel the need to say it. I doubt that's the case. Or that it's just, you know, because it requires more than a sentence or 2 of explanation, it doesn't fit into a bumper sticker, and it's not, you know, an easy left-right debate. It's just not the kind of thing that corporate media wants to talk about, because it's not the kind of thing that's going to draw eyeballs and get advertisers. I'm not sure why they're talking about it. Those are the possible ideas, but here's what's going on. What is so different about Facebook, advertising on Facebook, advertising a politician on Facebook, what's so different about that from advertising a politician on television, for example, or on radio or in the newspaper, is the ability to have highly tailored, hidden, secret ads that not everybody sees, that only the people to whom they are targeted sees. So, for example, if you were running a political campaign and you wanted to have, you know, one message for people who are, you know, concerned about gun violence, and another message for people who are concerned about the fate and future of the environment, and another message for people who are concerned about a woman's right to choose an abortion, regardless of which side of those 3 issues you're on, if you ran an ad, you know, if broadly, for example, you had a, well, for example, most Democratic candidates are pro-choice. There are a few who are pro-life. So if you had a Democratic candidate who is great on all kinds of progressive issues, but was also pro-life, and they really just kind of wanted to de-emphasize that, they would, if they were running television ads or newspaper ads, they just wouldn't mention their pro-life position if it polled, you know, less than 50% in their district. And, you know, they would just mention all the other, you know, put it on their website. I'm not talking about hiding it, but it wouldn't be the focus of the ad. But with Facebook, what you could do is you could find all the people who are opposed to abortion and deliver a pro-life ad specifically to them that all the other Democrats who are on Facebook would never see. Because what Facebook does is it allows you to sort through all of this psychological and demographic information and tightly target your ads. Now, that's a completely different way of delivering advertising, and what it does is it eliminates, by and large, the responsibility, the liability. Liability is too strong a word. It implies something legal, but the kind of moral and political responsibility to be consistent in your message and to deliver the same message to everybody, so everybody's running off the same database. So what is possible, and that was probably the most benign example I could think of. If you're on the hard right and you want to develop a message for a Republican politician that will actually resonate with right-wing white racists, and deliver them a fairly racist message in a way that probably nobody will ever know about, it's possible using social media this way. And Facebook is the most conspicuous of this, but we have the same problem in other social medias as well, although Facebook has turned it into an art form. So understanding this company that is heavily funded by Robert Mercer, the main campaign funder for the Trump campaign, Cambridge Analytica, Steve Bannon was on its board of directors. This company, which is part of or has an association with another company called Global Science Research, Cambridge Analytica had Global Science Research develop an app that could be used inside Facebook. Now, there's a whole bunch of apps that you can buy or you can get for free that you can run in your Facebook, inside the Facebook world. Facebook is it's not the internet. It's its own little bubble inside the internet. In fact, it's very hard to get into Facebook from elsewhere in the internet, and it's very hard to get information on Facebook, out of Facebook, into the rest of the internet. And that was, Zuckerberg and Facebook's whole idea was, keep this private, keep it tight, lock people into our world, into the Facebook world. So as a result of that, what they wanted to know was how, we need data on people. We need the super secret data. People, somebody may be gay but not even out about it. But Facebook knows that they're gay because they know what they're looking at. They know what they're liking. They know what they're searching for. Somebody might be, a racist and it's not conspicuous, but Facebook knows that they are. Or somebody might not be, and they're trying to pitch that they are, or whatever. It's like Facebook knows more about you than, I guarantee, if you're active on Facebook, Facebook knows more about you than your family does, because you basically have a narrow range of things you talk to your family about, or that your coworkers do, or that your friends do. So what they did is they developed this app, and they said, we will pay you $1 to fill out a personality profile. All you have to do is download this app on Facebook or into your Facebook feed and fill out the answers on Facebook. And what people didn't realize when they were being paid to fill out this personality profile is that once you give an app permission to access your Facebook information, it can not only hoover up, vacuum up all your posts, but it can also get all the information on your friends. And then it can also spider into their Facebook pages and get all the information on them. So if you've got, 300 Facebook friends and you fill out the survey, you just delivered the information not just of yourself, but that of yourself and your 300 friends to Facebook, or to Cambridge Analytica, to this company, Global Science Research. And using this technique, they had a few thousand or maybe tens of thousands of people who got a small amount of pay to fill out this survey, which was just, that was just pretend, right? That was essentially the scam. And by running this app inside Facebook and giving it permission to look at their contacts, what these people did was they helped Global Science Research hoover up, vacuum up, somewhere between 50 and 150 million people's worth of complete and comprehensive psychographic and demographic data. So the Cambridge Analytica then, using that data, could go back to Facebook and say, okay, we want this message delivered to these 270,000 people who have a unique interest in small dogs, right? And so we're going to talk about, Donald Trump loves small dogs. And this group over here, we've got another, 900,000 people who think that, we shouldn't have stupid wars. And so we're going to take a Donald Trump ad that says no more stupid wars. We're going to direct it to them. And over here, you've got, 1.3 million people who love vacationing in Hawaii. So we're going to customize an ad about, the wonders of Hawaii and put Donald Trump into it. And, none of these are real examples. I'm just pulling this stuff out of my left ear because I don't know what the examples are. Because as I said, when you buy advertising there with targeted groups, the rest of us don't get to see those ads. And unless somebody in one of those targeted groups captures that ad and stores it to their computer, and because you can't just push it out of Facebook into the internet and then exposes it, which pretty much has not happened. It's rather difficult to make happen. Plus, hey, if you're in the target group, why would you want to do that? You like that ad, right? So this is the weaponization of your private data being exploited by a political campaign. And that's why this is turning into a scandal, essentially, because it is micro-targeted advertising in a way that the rest of us don't know about. So if the Trump campaign puts together a Facebook ad that will appeal to, for example, gun enthusiasts who are white and are also members of a militia group or a white supremacist group, if they put together that ad, the rest of us aren't going to see that ad. We'll never even know that it ran on Facebook, and yet it might reach 1 million people and cause them to vote. Democrats are way behind in this game, and if Cambridge Analytica shuts down and goes away, as Greg Palast pointed out the other day on the internet, the Koch brothers have a parallel company that has already shared data with Cambridge Analytica that is maybe even bigger than Cambridge Analytica. So this is nothing unique to them. There are now at least 3 of these companies out there doing this kind of stuff that are all working with or under the control of right-wing forces. I don't know anybody on the left doing this. I'm guessing there is somebody, but not with this level of financing, funding, and sophistication. And this is something we need to look at. If you are a political campaign, you buy an ad on television, radio, or newspapers, you have to disclose it.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
That same disclosure should be necessary on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other forms of social media. It's really a very simple process. And welcome back. Let's see here. Jim in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Hey, Jim, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hi, sir. Very quickly, even though it's not exactly about what you just talked about, you mentioned pro-life in means of basically the, anti-abortion.
Right.
And actually, you should. I hate to say that you shouldn't use pro-life in that way. I think you should. A woman's right to choose, and pro-choice to me is more pro-life than that term being used.
I agree with you, but that said, the problem with just saying anti-abortion is that so many of these people now are also anti-birth control, and just to say anti-woman, people are scratching their heads, going, "What's he talking about?"
Yeah, but I just feel like the Republicans or this Christian right or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a friendly meme for them. I get it.
Yeah, they use that pro-life, and it's a very easy catch-all.
Sure.
It automatically gives you that connotation, like, oh, therefore, something that's better than what we are for.
Right.
when really pro-choice is actually better for our society.
And not only that, the pro-life movement, prior to 1973, and you'd have to talk to somebody my age to know this, but prior to 73, which was the Supreme Court Roe v. Wade decision, if you said pro-life, there were pro-life groups all over the United States, and they called themselves pro-life groups. And what they were protesting was the capital punishment. The pro-life movement in the United States from the 1920s to 1973 was an anti-capital punishment, an anti-death penalty movement. And when the anti-abortion people in 74 and 75 started using that phrase, the anti-death penalty people yelling bloody murder, say, wait a minute, you're co-opting our logos and our brand and everything else, but nobody had ever trademarked it, and there were a lot more anti-abortion people than there were anti-death penalty people, And so now that's what it's called. But I understand what you're saying, Jim, and I'll try to say anti-abortion more frequently if that.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good talking with you. Christopher in Snellville, Georgia. Hey, Christopher, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I was calling because I don't understand. I was watching CNN with Brian Stelter and Reliable Sources, and I was wondering why they give, why they get people like Ben Shapiro to promote this conservative that seen as being, very liberal when they hardly really give any progressive voices.
Right.
And the fact that this guy says the media does this when he goes on Fox News and is being a partisan hack all the time, but he can say what the media is not doing. It's like you are part of the media. But it's like, how does this right wing control? And what's so bad to me about CNN is they're so neutral. They don't even be objective sometimes, and that just makes the electorate be undecisive. And so, like Fox News and this right wing can say, well, this and this and that, and that's why these people vote a certain way without knowing that they're getting screwed economically.
When Howard Dean was running in the primary, he on television actually said that we should break up the big television networks. 2 days after he said that, the quote Dean scream happened and he got taken down by the media. Bernie has talked about breaking up the big networks. Bernie is persona non grata by and large at the big networks. This is the problem. Part of the progressive message, the genuine progressive message, is we need to return to local ownership of our media and break up our media monopolies, and that's not a message that flies well with these people. So they're only willing to put safe Democrats on who are not going to challenge their media dominance by and large. They will grudgingly put on Bernie from time to time, but very, very rarely. And and that's why, in my opinion. And I've been inside the media since I was 16 years old. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Welcome back. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, thanks for listening to SiriusXM. What's up?
Yeah, hey, Tom. Hey, I've been thinking about this situation with Cambridge Analytica for a while. And, the thing is during the campaign, I noticed Trump supporters that should have known better that were putting out things that weren't true. And at first I thought, well, they're just, they're racist. That's the common denominator that I saw. And then I looked at it a little bit more, and not all of them were. And I think what is going on is, and again, this is just my opinion, they use like emotive suggestion. The Kremlin used a technique that is used in catfishing, all right? And what it did is, I believe, it is more effective on conservatives than liberals. I don't think liberals necessarily will fall for it. Like, for instance, I love the idea of a highway that will power your electric car as you go down. I think I heard that story on your show. China built one. There's a highway. Now, I love that story. I love it. But I'm not 100% sure that's true. I mean, factual. And if
the technology for it has actually been invented, whether there are any such roads, I don't know. But we did a geeky science thing on the technology.
Okay, well, see that. Okay, you did. That's what. If a candidate brought that up, I would have to see the geeky science thing on it.
Yeah.
All right, and Republicans and conservatives, they don't need to see the quote-unquote geeky science thing.
Sure.
It's a motive suggestion. You know?
Well, here's where it gets even sneakier, Dave, and this is what we don't know has happened or not happened. In the example that I was giving a few minutes ago, I was talking about campaign advertisements. But what if I'm Steve Bannon, and I'm running Trump's campaign, and I'm on the board of Cambridge Analytica, and I've got this database of, say, 3 million American voters in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan that I know are white racists. Instead of sending them a campaign ad, what if I was to send them some particularly vile, anti-Hillary, not even send it to them, just kind of, like it for them or somehow push it to them, but not coming from me, if you know what I mean. Take some vile racist thing that was put together by the Acme militia group of Benton Harbor, Michigan, right? This just like this some bizarre little racist group that I know is going to resonate with them and is going to make them hate Hillary Clinton even more or love Donald Trump. Even though it's not a campaign ad, it has nothing to do with actual real campaign issues, but it is going to hurt one candidate and help another. And I push that out. That's the advertising I'm buying, rather than actual campaign ads. Then it gets even more insidious. Then it's even sneakier. Then it's even more under the radar. And frankly, in my opinion, more dangerous as a consequence. And we're just beginning to dig into what happened, because Facebook has been so unwilling to just put all this information out. I mean, one of the solutions that's been suggested is that all ads purchased on Facebook, there should be a page on Facebook that you can go to that's called "Here's the Ads," and you can simply see every ad that has been bought and who bought it. But Facebook keeps saying, we're not a media company, we're a content platform, an internet platform. We're not a news company, we're not a media company, and so we can't be regulated the way newspapers, magazines, television, and radio are. And I call BS on that. I think they absolutely are. Your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, simply put, emotive suggestion in all of us, it compromises our critical thinking. But I believe conservatives in America are just more vulnerable to it for whatever reason. Look at MS-13. Somebody said the other day that Donald Trump, MS-13 should pay Donald Trump royalties.
Oh, sure.
He promoted him so much.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he is. That's what he's doing. And they're a marginal gang, and they actually started in the United States not as a gang, but as a group of people who wanted to get together and listen to music. And it was some of our immigration policies that turned it into the deporting people down to El Salvador, I believe, or Nicaragua, that seeded that gang. I mean, there's a whole long story behind that. We did it on the show a couple months ago. But, Trump is building them up, and, it's just another example of the fundamental dishonesty with which he reaches out to people who are afraid. And I think the reason why conservatives are more vulnerable to this, Dave, as you correctly point out, is that generally speaking, people who identify as conservatives are driven more by fear than by hope. They're the fear of losing their job, the fear of losing their power, the fear of losing their privilege, fear. And so it's much easier to drive fear than it is to drive hope, with these kind of things. Dave, thanks for the call. Excellent points all. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a few minutes. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour here on the True People's Media, the Thom Hartmann Program. Well, the website is finally working. Apparently, it wasn't working last week, so maybe that's why we were $20,000 behind on donations for the week last week, but we really have to make it up. Apparently, a few people tried to make contributions over at the website at freespeech.org, and it wasn't working properly. I don't know the details, but we're behind, and which means Free Speech TV is behind, and this is how this network pays its bills, literally. This is how they pay their employees. And keep in mind, this entire network runs on a budget that is less than half of just the salary of a primetime MSNBC TV presenter. Half of the salary of one of those people you see in the afternoon on MSNBC pays for the entire year for 100% of everything that Free Speech TV does. This is a small network that gets a lot done with very few employees, and you know, it's really quite extraordinary. I mean, nobody is getting rich here. No, you know, we're hopefully paying decent salaries to people, but nobody is getting rich at Free Speech TV. It's a nonprofit organization. Your dollars go a long, long way when you make contributions to Free Speech TV, and you know, we get a lot done. And it's growing. We're going to be on Sling soon, which is the new way that people are cutting the cable. Louise and I do that at home. We're going to be on Apple TV if we're not already. We're on Roku. We're of course on Dish and Direct. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get, and on YouTube and everything else, lots and lots and lots of ways to get Free Speech TV. But if there's no Free Speech TV, there's no more progressive television in America, real progressive television in America. 98% of the people watching me right now have never contributed to Free Speech TV. If you're among that group, please join our family. Now is a great time to call 877-378-8669 and become part of our movement. This is a movement, and it's an extraordinary and important one. Please join. If with a $30 gift, you get your choice of one of 4 bumper stickers, the blue Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the black This Is Not Normal bumper sticker, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $30 gift, you get that. With a $60 gift, you get the Love Conquers Hate pin from the Human Rights Campaign, Free Speech TV grocery bag, blue grocery bag, and a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $72 contribution, you get all 4 bumper stickers plus actually that's it. You get all 4 bumper stickers. They are the Free Speech TV logo, the This Is Not Normal, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, and Thom Hartmann University. With a $120 contribution, you get a copy of my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author, as well as an autographed photo of me in Cuba in front of a painting of Fidel going, "Hi." So that's with a $120 contribution. With a $240 contribution, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt, Building a Just World on the front, Standing in Unity on the back. You get the Human Rights Campaign Love Conquers Hate lapel pin. You get the autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. And you get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. With a $360 gift, you get the autographed Thom Hartmann photo from Cuba. You get the autographed book by me, Unequal Protection. You get the book When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, which is the story of Black Lives Matter. You get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. You get a 1-year subscription to our on-demand podcasts. These are our audio podcasts. You get 4 bumper stickers, all 4 of them. This Is Not Normal, Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, Thom Hartmann University, and Free Speech TV logo. And with $480, this is the real special one, with a $480 contribution, and this, the only way you can get this DVD of Louise and my visit to Cuba is with this $480 contribution, period. It's not being sold. It's not going to be played on the air. It's only available to people who donate $480 to Free Speech TV. And it is, we're editing it as I speak, and it's going to be really nice. So you get that. You get my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author. You get When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, the book about Black Lives Matter. You get the book, A Visual History of America by Bonnie Siegler, Signs of Resistance. And you get a gray Free Speech TV T-shirt that on the front says Building a Just World and has the Free Speech TV logo. It's a $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, and special thanks, by the way, to Kathleen P. of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, who made this donation on Friday. And I look forward, Kathleen, to seeing you here in Portland one of these days, or maybe in D.C. We'll see how we work it out. But with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and occasionally maybe some other cities. We'll see what we can work out. But come to Portland, and we'll have lunch. We had 4 or 5 people here on Friday of last week for lunch, and it was great. We had a wonderful time. So please join us. Call 877-378-8669 now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. And Wendy in East Rockaway, New York. Hey, Wendy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I
Sure.
love your show. I learned so much. It's my first time calling. I'm a little nervous. Just about the Facebook ads, I was thinking that Trump seemed to jump around with his statements at his rallies and all the interviews over the past couple of years. Maybe he was creating sound bites to target different people.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Bannon or whoever was running the campaign could have said, we really need you to say, like in Charlottesburg, there's some very fine people. They turn that into a little ad and just send it out to the white racists, and they're the only ones who ever see it.
He's a performer.
But the big point that I'm making, Wendy, and I think you're speaking to this, is that if we don't all, as a society, if everybody doesn't see the argument that is being made on behalf of a campaign or a candidate or a position, if everybody doesn't see it, but only selective people who tend to agree with it see it, then, or disagree with it in the case of, sending out bad information about Nancy Pelosi or something, if only portions of our population are, quote, informed, then you have this atomization, this breaking apart, this scattering apart of our political consensus. We are no longer all operating out of the same database, the same set of shared facts. We have literally different facts. And
it's a form of divide and conquer almost.
Not almost. It is the essence of divide and conquer. It is the most effective way to divide and conquer us, and that's exactly what Bannon and Cambridge Analytica and Facebook and all these groups have succeeded in doing. Whether that was their intent from the get-go or not, I can't say, but it certainly looks like winning an election was their intent, and they pulled it off. And this,
Facebook is very, very dangerous. It's just got no rules, and I think that it can be used. It can be used for terrible things.
Yeah.
It's not just for sharing family photos. It's got way too much power. It can reach people in sinister ways, I guess.
I agree, and I think for Facebook's own protection, they should be reaching out and saying, we need some common sense regulations. Excuse me, I've got a cough. Pardon me. When Monsanto developed genetically modified organisms back during the 80s, the George Herbert Walker Bush was president at the time. Or, excuse me, was vice president at the time. It was in the last 2 years of the Reagan administration. And there were literally no rules regulating GMOs. And so Monsanto went to the Reagan administration, specifically they went through the office of George Herbert Walker Bush, the vice president, and they said, we would like regulations for GMOs. And the reason that they wanted the regulation is, number one, they made explicitly legalized GMOs. Number two, if it was regulated in a way that a big company like Monsanto could deal with, but a small startup company didn't have the resources to deal with, it would essentially give them the opportunity to lock in the market. And number three, it would diminish the growing cry from consumers of what the hell is this stuff, Frankenfoods and all this kind of stuff. And they'd be able to say, no, this is legitimate. The federal government recognizes this. George Herbert Walker Bush went along with that, and Monsanto got the regulations that they wanted, and the world got GMOs. Well, I'm suggesting slightly reversing that. The world already has social media. But social media, if Facebook, if I was advising this company, this corporation, I would tell them, look out, because you're going to have a dozen different countries with a dozen different ideas of what regulation of social media should look like. I mean, Facebook has already wildly censored themselves on behalf of China. And most of these Apple's doing the same thing, Google's doing the same thing. Everybody is bowing down and kissing the feet of the dictator and, the new president for life, President Xi in China. But here in the United States and in the European Union and in other advanced democracies around the world, you're going to have countries that are going to be coming in and saying, we're going to regulate you. And I think they would be wise to get ahead of it and come up with a set of rules that ensure transparency and that put them in the world of media with the kind of transparency requirements that radio, television, newspapers, and magazines have, voluntarily from the get-go, and head off this thing, because it's going to bite them in the butt big time and hurt their stock prices if they don't.
Absolutely, and they have an opportunity to say that they're protecting free speech at the same time, and so they could really do a good service to everyone also.
Yeah, if they got ahead of it and did it right, it would be both a good business decision and it would be good socially. But right now, I think you're right. The way that Facebook has been, the way that people like Cambridge and whatnot have figured out to manipulate the data that they can get from Facebook, and is so insidious, so deep, so subtle, and so powerful that it just can no longer be unregulated. It's just the case. Wendy, thank you for the call. Well said. John in Waynesville, North Carolina, listening to us on AM 880. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how's it going? I love your show.
Thank you.
Listen, I watched a documentary that you narrated called Heist, Who Stole the American Dream. I was so inspired by the documentary. It informed me of this whole agenda. And I recently watched another documentary that unfortunately you did not narrate. However, it is incredibly informative. It's called Trumpian Democracy, and it really covers the whole Cambridge Analytica topic in depth and the Mercer's role. I have always been inspired by documentaries going back to Michael Moore or other documentarians that have really exposed the truth. And I think people need to go to this documentary. I'm not involved in it.
Where is it available? Is it Netflix?
It's streaming on Vimeo. You can stream it for about $3. That's what I did. I watched it about 6 months ago, and it blew my mind. It's all about the Mercer family. It's all about Steve Bannon, Breitbart, and more, topically Cambridge Analytica. It's literally an earth-shattering documentary, very well done. Again, I think any documentary that reveals truth is worth a couple of bucks.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, thank you for that, John. Thanks for the heads up. Again, where was Heist available, first of all?
I have a DVD in front of me. I actually worked with the director, Ms. Causey, and screened it in Western North Carolina. And I would suggest that any of your listeners do the same for any documentary that they find to be informative. You can rent the library generally for free. That's what I did in Asheville, North Carolina. I had about 50 people show up for a Heist, and all of them were moved by it, and hopefully that resonated through their communities.
That's great. And then the name of the other documentary that you were talking about that you watched on Vimeo that was about Cambridge? What was the name of that?
It's called Trumping Democracy.
Trumping, Trumping?
Trumping Democracy.
Okay,
and
great.
It's on Vimeo. Highly recommended.
Great. John, thank you very much. A great growing database here of the mind hive, or the hive mind of the Thom Hartmann Program, all of us together here. Sereno in West Haven, Connecticut. Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Hey,
thank
you're
you
on the air.
for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, and I don't know the exact answer for this, so I'm going to bounce it off you and see if you can help me out. Whenever I read an article from a website, say like Alternet, and if it has a link to a YouTube video, the video is great. It corresponds with the article. But then if you look over to your right and look at other suggested videos, it's always stacked with very vile and negative videos that are practically the exact opposite of whatever the video you just saw was. And it's something that started a couple of years ago that I noticed, but nowadays, like if you ever try to search for a Black Lives Matter video, or if you try to search for a progressive video on YouTube, unless you have a direct link from a source that then vetted, the results that you churn up are the exact opposite of what you were looking for.
Well, it depends. Sereno, what you're discovering and describing has to do with browser histories and cookies. When I was doing the TV show on RT, we had two staff writers who, because every word you say on television has to be written down and put in a teleprompter, whereas here on radio, I'm my own writer. But we had two guys, Nate and Troy, whose job every day was to, go through the news and put things together and look at lots and lots of research, and we would collectively come up with the topics, and they would write stuff up. And they could both look at the same YouTube, for example, and this isn't limited to YouTube, by the way. The same thing happens with regard to Google searches and other things. They could both look at the same YouTube, and they would have different recommendations. And we ultimately figured out that, one of these two guys, one of their main beats was the right wing, and they were spending a lot of time on Reddit reading the right wing boards and stormfront.org, the Nazi site and things like that. And he was always getting Nazi videos thrown at him. And, it was research he was doing for our show. And the other guy was getting, whatever, puppy videos or something. And YouTube is owned by Google, and Google owns Chrome. And so if you use the Chrome browser somewhere, I can't say for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if even your browsing history influences which YouTubes are being recommended to you. Does that make sense?
Well, sort of, because, I'm not looking for Stormfront videos, and I'm not looking for alt-right videos. I'm looking more from the progressive side of things. I'm also looking more from the Democratic side of things. And what I've noticed is I'm getting all of those types of videos.
That's interesting.
When I'm searching for what
I wonder if they're promoted. I mean, like we have an account on YouTube, and we can go in and promote a video, and it pops up then as one of those recommended if you pay to promote it. And I wonder if the right is saying promote these to people who are on the left. I just don't know, Sereno. Again, this is where we need more transparency in these things.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Thanks for the call. I mean, this is fascinating stuff, and we as a culture, as a society, we deserve to know the answers to these things. And we'll welcome back. Let's see here, Scott in Mission, Kansas. Hey, Scott, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Last week I was looking at stuff about Gina Haspel and how she is Trump's #1 pick for CIA director.
Right.
And I saw your program. You're going to talk about the Iraq War. And so I'd like to pitch in about how this sort of ties in, the Iraq War and the Black Site prison was a result of that, and how Bush pushed for it to get us in Iraq, and that I watched The Young Turks, and Cenk Uygur pointed out how they did a mock execution to get a prisoner to say Saddam Hussein did 9/11.
Right.
And
so your point, she apparently ran the Thailand black site where they tortured 2 innocent men, one of them to the point that he lost his vision, both of them severely suffering now from PTSD and other psychological damage.
Waterboarded someone 83 times.
Right, yeah, who was innocent, it turned out. And this was the case that Ellen Ratner's brother, her now deceased brother, Michael Ratner, and the Center for Constitutional Rights took all the way to the Supreme Court. And that story is not getting anything close to the coverage that I think it should get. And I have some real concerns. And apparently not only was she involved in sanctioning the torture, perhaps even overseeing it, certainly overseeing the facility.
Sabotaging evidence as
That's
well.
right. She also apparently ordered the destruction of the videotaping of that torture. And, and we all know why. If Americans saw what was being done by American CIA officers or contractors to human beings, I mean, we would be revolted to see these kind of things being done to dogs.
Yeah, we hung Nazis for this kind of conduct in World War II.
Yep.
And she reopened Soviet gulags, which is where Hitler got the concentration camp from, was the Stalin's gulags.
Well, after World War II, I think it was, and it might have gone back before that. It might have even been World War I or the Spanish-American War, but at some point in the last 150 years, we also hung Filipino prisoners of war for waterboarding American soldiers during the war. And
yeah, I saw that on Cenk Uygur's Daily Rant on MSNBC.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we have always, and all the way back to George Washington, who explicitly instructed his troops not to mistreat the people that they had taken as prisoners of war, which then, when the British realized that if they surrendered, they would actually have 3 squares and a place to sleep, whereas, as soldiers, they were more likely to freeze and die. George Washington's "be nice to your prisoners" policy ended the Revolutionary War because it led to massive defections of British troops. And, we did the exact opposite in Afghanistan and Iraq. Instead of opening an opportunity for people to come in and say, hey, we'd like to be on your side, we just, came in as like the bad guys. It was like kind of a bad B movie, what we did. And we're still doing it. We're not still torturing apparently, but although who knows. But we're still occupying these countries and wondering why people don't want their country occupied.
And Obama let the Bush administration off the hook.
Yeah, just like Clinton let the Ford and Reagan administrations off the hook, and it's not a good thing. Scott, thanks a lot for the call, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. Media news and find out what's going on in the world today. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Loving What You Do, a new book by Ellen Ratner. And speaking of Ellen Ratner, she's on the line with us. Hey, Ellen, what's up in the world today?
Well, there's a lot going on today. The president is headed towards New Hampshire. Now, a lot of people, they're saying it's because New Hampshire has such a high opioid crisis, but a lot of people think that it's because he's worried about a primary challenge in New Hampshire, and that may come from Governor Kasich in Ohio.
Yeah, bet your bottom dollar. And not just Kasich. I mean, but I'm thinking Jeff Flake is going to primary him, too.
Oh, Jeff Flake is not a happy camper. He's been saying crazy things. Well, not crazy things, but things that Trump would consider crazy.
Yeah. And Bob Corker once ran for president, too,
Right. That's true. So one of the things he's going to talk about in New Hampshire is the death penalty for people who distribute opioids. He's also going to talk about reducing prescriptions and having doctors reduce prescriptions for opioids.
Is he going to talk about, now, 50,000 or 30,000 people a year die from opiates, as I recall, but 500,000 people a year die from tobacco. Is he going to call for the death penalty for tobacco industry executives?
Of course not.
Oh. Just a little consistency, please?
Right. Well, what can you say? He's the President of the United States, and he was voted in by a bunch of right-wingers.
Yeah, to the extent that he was voted in. But yeah.
Well, okay. All right. So then on Sunday morning, that was yesterday, he released a lot of tweets And he went after Robert Mueller, who's the special counsel. He went after Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who was fired like 24 hours, not even maybe a day and a half, maybe it was 40 hours before his retirement was supposed to kick in. And now it looks as if there's a Democratic member of Congress who is going to give him a job offer. Representative Mark Pocan from Wisconsin, or Pocan from Wisconsin, has offered him a job, as other Democrats have.
Yeah, and Mark has taken Bernie's place on this program. Every Wednesday for a full hour, he comes on and answers listeners' call.
Oh, really?
Callers
I would
listen.
love to talk to him sometime.
Oh,
That'd
he's
be very
great.
Cool.
He is spectacular.
Yeah.
He and his husband Phil, they're just wonderful people, and he's a great congressman, and he's the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus too. And the guy knows political theater. He's been going into Paul Ryan's district every couple months and doing town halls because Paul Ryan has refused to do so for several years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul, well, what can we say, right?
Yeah.
All right, now, there is a Republican member of Congress. His name is Tom Marino. He has now introduced legislation for armed guards in schools, if you can believe it. And he is in his fourth term. He was nominated previously for be director of the National Office of Drug Policy, but then it was found out that he's in bed with pharma. And so he withdrew from that job, but he's still a member of Congress. And now he wants armed guards in the schools.
Right. So he's apparently in bed with the NRA, too.
Well, they all are, right?
Or at least all the Republicans.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Okay. On Wednesday, that is 2 days from now, it looks like the House spending bill will be up for a vote. Now, it first goes to the House. Remember, it was supposed to turn into a pumpkin on October 1st, and then there was an increase because Trump said, well, they'll come to some agreement by December, and then, of course, they didn't. So then it was included till January, then included till February, and now March. And it increases defense spending by $80 billion. That's with a B dollars. Non-defense spending at $63 billion. There is a Northeast Corridor project, which the president said he would veto the bill if it did not get passed. Peter King, a Republican from the state of New York, is in favor of it. It's a bipartisan group of people. They say that they want this corridor project done because it will improve transportation so much between these
Is that going to clean up the rail line, basically, between D.C., New York, and Boston?
Well, that's what they're hoping, one of the things that they're hoping for. Okay, some more news. Chris Liddell, he worked with Kushner in the Office of American Innovation. He is still going to work there. He's a former Microsoft executive. He has now been nominated to be Deputy Chief of Staff. And I don't think that needs any kind of congressional approval. I think he can just get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and is that a setup for him taking John Kelly's job?
Well, I don't know. That's a very good question. Kelly, of course, approved it, but we don't have any idea.
Right.
You know, we just don't know how Trump is going to behave. Okay, now, there was a poll taken. 82% of Americans believe that the government spies on them. 53% of Americans, out of those 82%, believe that it is widespread. 29% said it is not widespread. But 82% of Americans think the government spies on them.
Wow. I wonder what percentage of Americans think that their internet service provider or their social media companies are spying on them.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We cover the White House, as you know, and under President Bush, I once called the Democratic National Committee to ask them a question, and then I asked a question during the briefing, and the briefer, who was Ari Fleischer, said to me, "Where did you get that question?" So then I knew that everything we say at the White House is recorded.
Wow. Wow. Even when you're using your own private cell phone.
Even when we're using our own private cell phone.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. Amazing. Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News. Ellen, you are a wealth of information. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.
Great talking to you. And goodsfortheoldgoat.com and loving what you do.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com. Well, the website is finally working. Apparently, it wasn't working last week, so maybe that's why we were $20,000 behind on donations for the week last week, but we really have to make it up. Apparently, a few people tried to make contributions over at the website at freespeech.org, and it wasn't working properly. I don't know the details, but we're behind, and which means Free Speech TV is behind, and this is how this network pays its bills, literally. This is how they pay their employees. And keep in mind, this entire network runs on a budget that is less than half of just the salary of a primetime MSNBC TV presenter. Half of the salary of one of those people you see in the afternoon on MSNBC pays for the entire year for 100% of everything that Free Speech TV does. This is a small network that gets a lot done with very few employees, and you know it's really quite extraordinary. I mean, nobody is getting rich here. No, you know, we're hopefully paying decent salaries to people, but nobody is getting rich at Free Speech TV. It's a nonprofit organization. Your dollars go a long, long way when you make contributions to Free Speech TV, and you know, we get a lot done. And it's growing. We're going to be on Sling soon, which is the new way that people are cutting the cable. Louise and I do that at home. We're going to be on Apple TV if we're not already. We're on Roku. We're of course on Dish and Direct. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get, and on YouTube and everything else. Lots and lots and lots of ways to get Free Speech TV. But if there's no Free Speech TV, there's no more progressive television in America, real progressive television in America. 98% of the people watching me right now have never contributed to Free Speech TV. If you're among that group, please join our family. Now is a great time to call 877-378-8669 and become part of our movement. This is a movement. And it's an extraordinary and important one. Please join. If with a $30 gift, you get your choice of one of 4 bumper stickers: the blue Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the black This Is Not Normal bumper sticker, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $30 gift, you get that. With a $60 gift, you get the Love Conquers Hate pin from the Human Rights Campaign, Free Speech TV grocery bag, blue grocery bag, and a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $72 contribution, you get all 4 bumper stickers plus actually that's it. You get all 4 bumper stickers. They are the Free Speech TV logo, the This Is Not Normal, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, and Thom Hartmann University. With a $120 contribution, you get a copy of my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author, as well as an autographed photo of me in Cuba in front of a painting of Fidel going, "Hi." So that's with a $120 contribution. With a $240 contribution, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt, Building a Just World on the front, Standing in Unity on the back. You get the Human Rights Campaign Love Conquers Hate lapel pin. You get the autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. And you get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. With a $360 gift, you get the autographed Thom Hartmann photo from Cuba. You get the autographed book by me, Unequal Protection. You get the book When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, which is the story of Black Lives Matter. You get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. You get a one-year subscription to our on-demand podcasts. These are our audio podcasts. You get 4 bumper stickers, all 4 of them. This is not normal, like a clown, expect a circus, Thom Hartmann University, and Free Speech TV logo. And with $480, this is the real special one, with a $480 contribution, and this, the only way you can get this DVD of Louise and my visit to Cuba is with this $480 contribution, period. It's not being sold. It's not going to be played on the air. It's only available to people who donate $480 to Free Speech TV. And it is, we're editing it as I speak, and it's going to be really nice. So you get that. You get my book on equal protection, autographed by the author. You get When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, the book about Black Lives Matter. You get the book A Visual History of America by Bonnie Siegler, Signs of Resistance. And you get a gray Free Speech TV T-shirt that on the front says Building a Just World and has the Free Speech TV logo. It's a $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, and special thanks, by the way, to Kathleen P. of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, who made this donation on Friday. And I look forward, Kathleen, to seeing you here in Portland one of these days, or maybe in D.C. We'll see how we work it out. But with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and occasionally maybe some other cities. We'll see what we can work out. But come to Portland, and we'll have lunch. We had 4 or 5 people here on Friday of last week for lunch, and it was great. We had a wonderful time. So please join us. Call 877-378-8669 now. Thank you. Sideswiped.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the second hour of our program. I want to repeat something. I just basically mentioned it in passing with Congressman Ro Khanna in our first hour. Actually, this is the third hour of our program. And that was when I was on Fox and Friends over the weekend. I didn't have a chance to really articulate it the way I would prefer to, because when you're on Fox News as a progressive, you're constantly being shouted down, talked over, chopped off, whatnot. And I don't know if they'll have me back or not. It's, one way or the other, it's all good. But I wanted to get out this meme of the Trump crime family, because I think it's a very real thing. You've got Ivanka Trump taking $1.5 million a year, according to press reports, from the Trump organizations while she is, quote, working without pay in the White House. You got Jared Kushner, whose his family business is apparently engaged in widespread fraud. New York now is looking at how they took these buildings, bought them for what they were worth, basically, and then got rid of all the rent control units, which radically increases the value of the building because it radically increases how much rent you can charge, illegally. They just illegally, they would do construction in the middle of the night to just force people out, to make life such a living hell for the rent-controlled units that the people would finally say, okay, screw it. And then they would show up and say, hey, here's $10,000 cash if you leave. We're sorry, we've, the noise and everything, and just to make it easier for you, here's 10 grand. And so people would leave. This is not legal. And the Kushner family, or the Kushner companies have been doing this apparently for a while, at least according to numerous news reports out. It's either the New York Times or the Washington Post reporting on this today. So the point that I wanted to make, and that I think I did make, but I want to emphasize, is that it's not just Donald Trump. It is a criminal syndicate, which so far is made up of Donald Trump and Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump and Don Jr. And probably Eric. I'm not sure that he's really, I don't think that they let him near things, to sign things and whatnot. He's not the smartest of the brothers, shall we say, apparently. But this sure looks to me like, a classic New York crime family. And the proof of it, in my mind, or one proof of it, is what Donald Trump did to Andrew McCabe. Andrew McCabe was the #2 guy at the FBI. James Comey was fired. He was the guy kind of left over in charge, and the assistant director of the FBI. And Trump stripped him of his pension. He was retiring on Saturday or Sunday, and Trump fired him on Friday so that he would no longer be eligible for his FBI pension. This is after 21 years in the agency. You can argue that you don't like the fact that somebody can get a pension after 20 years. That used to be the normal thing in America, by the way, before Reagan. But what, in my opinion, was actually going on was Donald Trump was saying, and he's, by the way, he's right up front about this. This is in Art of the Deal. Talk to Tony Schwartz, the guy who wrote Art of the Deal, on behalf of Trump. He'll tell you this. Trump brags about it. You know, if somebody hurts him, he hurts them back 10 times worse. Donald Trump is a petty, hateful, vindictive little man. Well, he's a big man with little hands, who relishes revenge as one of his favorite emotions. Revenge is his thing. He's all about revenge. And you know, we've seen this throughout his business career. You see this in his personal life. And now, in my opinion, his stripping Andrew McCabe of his pension was his way of saying to the other 35,000 employees of the FBI, I know that some of you guys are looking into the Trump companies right now. I know that some of you guys are looking into Ivanka's dealings and around the world, you know, her criminal associations in Panama and all these other things. I know that some of you are looking into Jared's dealings. I know that some of you are looking into Don Jr.'s dealings, and particularly his meeting with Russians in Trump Tower. And he says, you know, and I know that some of you are looking into my dealings, into Donald Trump himself's dealings, like writing the letter for Don Jr., lying about why he was meeting with the Russians, for example. Talk about obstruction and cover-ups, or collusion and cover-ups, or attempted collusion and cover-ups. And I think that what Donald Trump was saying to the entire FBI when he stripped Andrew McCabe of his pension was, I can personally destroy you personally. Right? You want to work 20 years for the FBI and then retire? Good luck. We're going to take your retirement. Or we'll find one of 100 other ways to destroy you. I suspect that there's a bunch of people at the FBI right now who are looking into many of these things, some on behalf of Mueller, some on behalf of just, you know, hey, the FBI has investigations. You've got a family, the Trump crime family, that for years and years and years has been, you know, in business with, or done business with at the very least, actual mafia figures in New York City. And this is no secret. Look at, you know, where the concrete came from for Trump Tower, if the news reports I've read are accurate. And using these mob-like techniques. I mean, this is right out of The Godfather. Hey, hey, McCabe, hey, FBI, you don't want to cross me, eh? Like your pension, a nice little pension you got there. I mean, that's what's going on, in my opinion. The Trump crime family is fighting back, and they're fighting back against law enforcement. And this is wrong. This is just fundamentally wrong. And the thing that shocks me is that particular take on it, that this is Trump not just getting revenge on Andrew McCabe because, you know, here's the ironic part of this, right? And I pointed this out on Fox News. What McCabe is accused of leaking was that Hillary Clinton was under investigation by the FBI because of the emails that were found on Anthony Weiner's computer. So McCabe's leak, in collusion with Comey, McCabe is apparently the one who recommended this to Comey, McCabe's action that he was, quote, fired for, is probably what made Donald Trump president. We know that Hillary Clinton lost 1 full point in the polling the day after that story came out that Comey and McCabe were looking on Anthony Weiner's computer at tens of thousands of Hillary Clinton emails that had been backed up to that computer in error, apparently. And that was, had that not happened, Hillary Clinton would certainly have won the White House. So Andrew McCabe helped Donald Trump win, but his wife ran for state senate in Virginia and took money from a PAC associated with Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe is a longtime friend of Bill Clinton's, and therefore Donald goes into hyper-paranoid mode. And so the other message he's communicating to everybody who has a job in government that Donald Trump can mess with is, don't you dare support Democrats, and don't you dare have a family member who dares to participate in partisan politics, because I will mess with you. I mean, this goes beyond bullying. This is mafia-like intimidation. And everybody, in the media, everybody's talking about, oh, well, what's going to happen, and oh, Mark Pocan offered him a job so he could keep his pension, and oh, quack, quack, quack. And nobody's pointing out that this behavior actually has a name. This behavior is not new. This behavior has a long, long history. It's called intimidation. And it's intimidation with a very specific purpose. And this is what Trump is up to. And this is what the FBI is the victim of. And this is what we all should be calling out. This is another piece of that not normal that we seem to be getting used to. Can you remember a president taking on a branch of the government in a way to directly intimidate them? Can you imagine if Nixon had even tried this, or Bill Clinton during his impeachment? It's unimaginable, and yet here it is.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So join me in helping encourage our corporate media to point out what Trump is doing and why he's doing it, and that there is a Trump crime family. And welcome back. Marcy in Arlington, Texas, watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Marcy, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. A couple of comments. I would be interested in the media coming out with figures on how many junior and senior high school students will be voting in 2020.
Probably probably more than half of them will be eligible to, maybe 3/4 of them will be eligible to. The question is, what percentage of them are actually going to do it? That's been the problem in the last couple of elections.
That's true.
People under 25 just aren't voting.
I would just say, for someone who is ashamed of my voting record all of my adult life, that they need to seriously contemplate that the future of the country is in their hands.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, I've made a few votes in my life that I look back on and go, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was one comment.
Mm-hmm.
The other is outgoing presidents. They collect a pension for the rest of their life, do they not?
I believe that's the case. I think that might not be the case for Nixon, but I'm not sure. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, there should be a clause against treasonous presidents, shouldn't there?
Well, there is, and impeachment is the remedy. And it just occurred to me, since Nixon resigned rather than being impeached, he probably kept his pension, but I'm not certain of that.
Well, would his impeachment have been on the grounds of treason, or was it just
treason? Was not
bad politics.
Treason was not a word that was used in the articles of impeachment against Richard Nixon. It's been at least 6 or 7 years since I've read those articles of impeachment, and my recollection is there were 4 or 5 specific articles. And it involved conspiracy. It involved the cover-up of the Watergate burglary. It involved, directing that.
Americans.
Yeah, and there was something that had to do with money laundering or money or something. I'm sorry, right off the top of my head, I don't remember, but I do know that the word treason was never used.
Yeah, well, there's a first time for everything. Haven't we discovered that?
Yeah, there you go. Nancy, I'm inclined to agree with you. Nancy, thank you so much for the call. It's great to hear from you. Jimmy in Northwood, Ohio. Hey, Jimmy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, that guy called up about how YouTube's like steering you right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding the same thing.
Really?
Like every afternoon, I have to punch in Thom Hartmann live just to go to your show because they never put it up there. So I know to watch me. Like I go and look at the Forex currency news, and they're always advertising 3D printing stuff now that I'm looking into it, and they wouldn't know that unless. Yeah, I think I'm going to switch my browser from Chrome to something else.
Yeah, I just went to Firefox.
I got a question. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I got a question. That security guard that resigned after the shooting in
Parkland. Yeah,
in Parkland, did he give up his pension too?
I don't know. I don't even know if he had a pension. I don't know the details of that. I suspect that guy has a story to tell, and that he's been. Well, I don't know if he was a coward or if he was just mistaken. Jimmy, thank you for the call. Welcome back. Paulo in Bristol in the United Kingdom. Hey, Paulo, thanks for listening to us on TuneIn. What's on your mind?
How are you?
I am great, but I'll get better, Paulo. Hope the same is true for you.
Okay. Yes. And I'd just like to make a comment about Trump's base and the electoral map, because it seems like the media keeps harping about the narrative that he's so unpopular. But I think the problem is the national popular vote doesn't determine who wins. And I think the Senate map, especially this year, seems to be rigged, seems to enable Trump to do all these sorts of crazy antics. What do you think of that?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. The fact that, Bill Maher made a joke about this last week, but it was only a half joke. North Dakota and South Dakota, between the two of them, have fewer than 2 million people. Yeah. And yet they have 4 senators. California has 35 million people, and it has 2 senators. What's right about that?
That's right. I mean, that's true, because it makes me think that even if that Mr. Trump can afford to act crazily because his base is so dispersed around more states in the country, whereas those who disapprove of him are only concentrated in the likes of California and New York. And I actually worry that despite all this gloom, this good news for Democrats, that they might actually end up shorthanded in the Senate and possibly have a filibuster-proof majority given the electoral map. Oh yeah, absolutely. There is no guarantee that the Democrats are going to take either the House or the Senate this year. In fact, the odds are against them. Everybody's saying Connor Lamb proved that it's a whole brand new world and map and everything, and maybe Doug Jones as well. I don't think so. I think that it's showed that there's a lot of outrage, but if you've got one single election that with national attention focused on it, maybe you can do something. But it's going to be a long slog, particularly given how aggressive the voter suppression that's going on right now. I mean, they knock 100,000 people off the voting rolls in Wisconsin, and then Trump wins by 20,000 votes. What a surprise! Yeah. They knock a couple 100,000 off the voting rolls in Michigan, and he wins by 15,000 votes. Again, I don't think Trump won any of those states, those Midwestern states, legitimately, because there was such aggressive voter suppression in every single one of them. I know, but I think the point that I just wanted to make here is that I think if you have these, given that, as you said, California and the Dakotas have Senate representation which is not commensurate to their population, it sort of points out to the flaws of representation, of how the map should represent each of. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, and worse. Yeah. And even in the House, where actually representation is proportional, relatively speaking. In other words, for every 835,000 people, there's one member of the House, or whatever the number is. Yeah. Even there, the Republicans, Democrats have been doing it for years too, and it needs to be ended on
the part of both parties have been gerrymandering districts so that they're not competitive, so that there aren't actual races. Hey, Paulo, a quick question for you. It says here you're in Bristol in the United Kingdom, right? Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you an American living in the UK? And if so,
no, I'm just a foreigner.
so
Just
you're
a foreigner
British.
living here.
Oh, great. Because
no,
you're
not exactly, but
Yeah.
I'm interested in British politics too.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious what your experience of the British healthcare system is, because we're having a debate here in the United States about, our privatized healthcare system. It's twice as expensive as that in the UK. Do you have terrible long lines and awful service?
Well, I actually have not used the NHS yet, but I hear that it depends on who you ask, although some would rather have this one compared to what they do in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, they certainly did a great job of keeping Stephen Hawking alive to the age of 76, something everybody thought was impossible. And Hawking over and over and over again credited the National Health Service, the NHS in Great Britain, for that.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
And now I think it's in danger, and now some are saying that it's in danger because of Brexit and because of this government's migration policies.
Well, and also because Theresa May wants to privatize it. I mean, that's been on the agenda ever since Maggie Thatcher.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, indeed.
Okay, Paulo, thank you for the call. Great to hear from you. Paul in Clifton Heights, Pennsylvania. Hey, Paul, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, in the interest of fairness, and from what I've read, Andrew McCabe didn't lose his pension. He was eligible for early retirement if he made it to his birthday, which would have meant he could retire now when he's 50 years old, and now he just has to wait until he's 57. But, your point is valid, is that he's just trying to intimidate. Trump's just trying to intimidate him.
Right, and I believe that you are right on that, Paul. I've read that as well.
But the other thing is that I still am in shock. It's a year later, and over a year later, and I can't believe he won. And to the point, have you talked on your program about how that guy who used to be Secretary of State in the state of Kansas and that
Chris
software that they used to kick people off the voting rolls?
Yeah. Easy way to remember his name is KKK. He's Chris Kobach. They're both spelled with a K, from Kansas. KKK.
Oh my God, yeah. And that software that they use to kick people off the voting rolls.
Interstate cross-check.
From what I understand, double check or something.
Interstate cross-check.
That's it. And they used it in all three of the states that were key to him winning, and he won by only a few thousand votes. He used it here in PA too, and but even that said, I just can't believe that such a horrible human being could get elected president of our country. It makes me sad.
It makes a lot of us sad, and it's a very tragic representation of the United States to the rest of the world. I mean, Donald Trump is the incarnation of the ugly American.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Paul, thanks for the call. We can sit around and commiserate about it, but I think what we need to do is do something about it. Which means show up at your local Democratic Party and say, yes, sign me up. I want to help. I want to be part of this thing. I'm part of the resistance. And join groups like MoveOn.org or Progressive Democrats of America or Our Revolution. Get active.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Find your local indivisible group. Find your local Drinking Liberally group. There's lots and lots of people out there willing and anxious to support, ready to support you. Well, the website is finally working. Apparently it wasn't working last week, so maybe that's why we were $20,000 behind on donations for the week last week, but we really have to make it up. Apparently, a few people tried to make contributions over at the website at freespeech.org, and it wasn't working properly. I don't know the details, but we're behind, and which means Free Speech TV is behind, and this is how this network pays its bills, literally. This is how they pay their employees, and keep in mind, this entire network runs on a budget that is less than half of just the salary of a primetime MSNBC TV presenter. Half of the salary of one of those people you see in the afternoon on MSNBC pays for the entire year for 100% of everything that Free Speech TV does. This is a small network that gets a lot done with very few employees, and you know, it's really quite extraordinary. I mean, nobody is getting rich here. No, you know, we're hopefully paying decent salaries to people, but nobody is getting rich at Free Speech TV. It's a nonprofit organization. Your dollars go a long, long way when you make contributions to Free Speech TV, and you know, we get a lot done. And it's growing. We're going to be on Sling soon, which is the new way that people are cutting the cable. Louise and I do that at home. We're going to be on Apple TV if we're not already. We're on Roku. We're of course on Dish and Direct. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get, and on YouTube and everything else, lots and lots and lots of ways to get Free Speech TV. But if there's no Free Speech TV, there's no more progressive television in America, real progressive television in America. 98% of the people watching me right now have never contributed to Free Speech TV. If you're among that group, please join our family. Now is a great time to call 877-378-8669 and become part of our movement. This is a movement, and it's an extraordinary and important one. Please join. If with a $30 gift, you get your choice of one of 4 bumper stickers, the blue Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the black This Is Not Normal bumper sticker, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $30 gift, you get that. With a $60 gift, you get the Love Conquers Hate pin from the Human Rights Campaign, Free Speech TV grocery bag, blue grocery bag, and a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $72 contribution, you get all 4 bumper stickers plus actually that's it. You get all 4 bumper stickers. They are the Free Speech TV logo, the This Is Not Normal, the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, and Thom Hartmann University. With a $120 contribution, you get a copy of my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author, as well as an autographed photo of me in Cuba in front of a painting of Fidel going, "Hi." So that's with a $120 contribution. With a $240 contribution, you get the Free Speech TV T-shirt, Building a Just World on the front, Standing in Unity on the back. You get the Human Rights Campaign Love Conquers Hate lapel pin. You get the autographed copy of my book, Unequal Protection. And you get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. With a $360 gift, you get the autographed Thom Hartmann photo from Cuba. You get the autographed book by me, Unequal Protection. You get the book When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, which is the story of Black Lives Matter. You get the book Signs of Resistance, A Visual History of Protest in America by Bonnie Siegler. You get a 1-year subscription to our on-demand podcasts. These are our audio podcasts. You get 4 bumper stickers, all 4 of them. This Is Not Normal, Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, Thom Hartmann University, and Free Speech TV logo. And with $480, this is the real special one, with a $480 contribution, and this, the only way you can get this DVD of Louise and my visit to Cuba is with this $480 contribution, period. It's not being sold. It's not going to be played on the air. It's only available to people who donate $480 to Free Speech TV. And it is, we're editing it as I speak, and it's going to be really nice. So you get that. You get my book, Unequal Protection, autographed by the author. You get When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Kahn-Coolers, the book about Black Lives Matter. You get the book, A Visual History of America by Bonnie Siegler, Signs of Resistance. And you get a gray Free Speech TV T-shirt that on the front says Building a Just World and has the Free Speech TV logo. It's a $480 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, and special thanks, by the way, to Kathleen P. of Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, who made this donation on Friday. And I look forward, Kathleen, to seeing you here in Portland one of these days, or maybe in D.C. We'll see how we work it out. But with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and occasionally maybe some other cities. We'll see what we can work out. But come to Portland, and we'll have lunch. We had 4 or 5 people here on Friday of last week for lunch, and it was great. We had a wonderful time. So please join us. Call 877-378-8669 now. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Alternate just put up the 4th part. They're serializing my book, Walking Your Blues Away, and they just put up the 4th part. The headline is, Could Walking Be the Solution to Your Health Problems? And, of course, it talks about that. It talks about creativity and, of course, psychology. So I think you'll find it fascinating. Robert in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind today? It says here you're offended by me.
I am, Tom, and I want you to know, first of all, I listen to your program often because I like the other side. I want to hear all sides of the argument, and I do have a lot of respect for you. I think you do a lot of research, and you have a lot of passion for your positions, but you just generalized me and many others by calling me an ugly American just because I supported Trump.
No, what I said in the last segment was Trump is the personification of the ugly American. He's the guy who blunders around, who says racist things, who talks loud, who is inconsiderate of others. He's the classic ugly American. That's what I said. I wasn't speaking of you, Robert.
Okay.
I mean, look at the stereotypes of Americans that have been characterized in movies over the years. I remember when I was studying in China, I was living in the Acupuncture Institute, and the Hilton Hotel was the only American building in Beijing at the time. This is 1986, November of '86. And I went up the elevator to the top floor, which is where they had this nice restaurant. And there was this big guy from Texas, complete with the hat and the big belt buckle. And we got up there, and the woman who was the maitre d', to take you to your table, she comes over. He was ahead of me. And she comes over and she says, what would you like, sir? And he made some comment about, well, aren't you a cute looking thing? And he patted her on the butt. I mean, that's the ugly American. I was mortified. And clearly he wasn't grabbing like Donald Trump was bragging about. But I mean, that's what I was talking about, Robert, and I stand by it.
But there were no ugly Americans that supported Obama?
Oh, I'm sure there were, but Obama was not an ugly American. Barack Obama was not an ugly American. Barack Obama was a guy who had a lot of class. For that matter, Ronald Reagan wasn't an ugly American. George W. Bush wasn't an ugly American by these definitions. I completely disagree with all of their policies, but they had some class. These were decent people. This guy, Donald Trump, if he hadn't inherited all the money he inherited, he would, well, the characterizations that come.
I get it. And one more point, if you could, I would appreciate a little more discussion about the FBI officials and the IG Horowitz that had a lot to do with the firing of McCabe, instead of just the people in the talking points about trying to hook this on Trump's neck. It was his own internal affairs, McCabe's internal affairs, that did this to him. So
that's correct.
Some more discussion on it would be helpful. You do a pretty good job at staying balanced, and I'd appreciate a little bit of information there. But I'll continue to listen to you, Tom.
Okay,
thanks. I appreciate your program, and I appreciate your view.
Thanks, Robert, and feel free to call in and call me out anytime. And you are right, by the way. McCabe was fired as a result of an internal investigation and recommendations of people who are not part of the Trump administration, but are long-term FBI people. The question is, were they rushed to do this? Because the people in the FBI are saying to the press, this is absolutely unprecedented. This is what Marco Rubio, by the way, said yesterday on Fox News, just before I was on Fox News yesterday. Marco Rubio came out and said, you could pull this guy's pension a week from now, a month from now, anytime you want. All you have to have is a finding that he should have been fired, essentially, that he did something wrong that's worthy of losing his pension over. You can do that anytime you want. These are administrative actions. Why did it have to be done the day before his birthday? So it's a high-profile thing as opposed to simply taking his pension away for misbehavior. And the only conclusion I think that Marco Rubio and I can come to is that Trump is trying to send a message. Now, who is he trying to send that message to? I think it's the other people in the FBI who are investigating other members of the Trump crime family. What do you think, Robert?
You might have a point, but wouldn't it be more worthwhile to find out the names or who the people are on that internal investigation board for the FBI?
Oh, they're
see
public.
where their affiliations are?
Yeah, those names are out there. I don't remember them, but I've seen them in the news reports, or at least the top two
I'd
people
like
who
to,
made that
you know,
decision. Yeah, I'd love to know more
knowing their
about it too, Robert.
affiliations could help the decision. Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
and I
Thanks, Tom.
suspect over time these things will come out, but it sure looks to me like, you know, Trump is behaving like the little kid who likes to pull the wings off flies. You know, it's
Well,
just.
and I mean, in fairness, Obama did the same thing on the air when he put out some innuendos of how he wanted certain judges to go certain ways and certain opinions on the public. He would slip it into.
Can you give me
and
one
Republicans
example of
said
that?
The same thing. I can't give it to you now. You know that it was years ago, but the same kind of.
Because I have no recollection of anything like that, other than his calling out the Supreme Court. You know.
The police up in New England acting stupidly, and his public involvement in the things that went on in Ferguson. I mean, he was just as public trying to sway opinions as well for his legal department. I mean, it's there on both sides. Don't get me wrong. I'm not supporting what Trump does, but it is on both sides. But I understand your position. So,
Okay.
listen, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Robert, thank you. Thank you for the call. Thanks for listening to Sirius XM. Bill in Osaka, Japan. Boy, we're getting calls from all over the world. Hey, Bill. Welcome to the program.
How are you doing?
Great. Are you following up on my conversation with the fellow from the UK about the quality of healthcare in a basically a single payer or socialized medicine society?
Yes, that's right. First of all, I do subscribe. I have a problem every time you have a meeting like this because I'm sending you $25 a month. Do I redonate again every time?
Oh, this is Free Speech TV? Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least call in and say hi. I'm not sure of the details of it. I'm sorry, but
no problem. Yeah, I've been here about 20 years, and I'm now 80 years old. We do have a modified single-payer system. Every 3 months, I go into the doctor for a series of seeing 3 doctors, check into the hospital. The first thing I do is have a blood test. And by the time I get to the doctor an hour later, the results of that blood test are in the computer.
Wow.
So he can run down and check out all of my numbers according to the previous numbers over the years.
Wow.
When I turned 75, they cut my, quote, copay, unquote, down to 10% of the bill. So I'll go in and, for instance, last week I went in to see a doctor about some growths on my hand, and I walked out of there. It cost me 70 cents.
Whoa. Wait a minute. So that means that the cost of the visit was $7?
Yeah.
Wow. In America, you can't get a Dixie cup for $7 in a hospital or a doctor's office.
That's true. I've been in the hospital for skin cancer and for a hernia operations. Fantastic situations, except I had to stay in the hospital for a week or so after the skin cancer, and the breakfast was a piece of bread and a piece of fruit.
Oh.
I had a little objecting to it.
Yeah, not the best food.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably healthier for you than the Jell-O and the scrambled eggs and stuff that they serve in the U.S. But which is like heart attack on a stick. But so you're happy with the quality of Japanese healthcare? Are most Japanese? I mean, you've been there 30 years. I'm assuming you speak Japanese, and you know a lot of indigenous folks.
Well, no, I don't. But yeah, people are pleased with it. It works extremely well. We can make appointments. In fact, for the hernia operation, we decided that my hospital was not satisfactory. So we researched the hospitals to find the best results on hernias, and I went to that hospital.
So you can go to any hospital in Japan as a member of the Japan Medicare program?
I believe, yes. Sure.
Wow, remarkable. And what does it cost you, by the way, to have your Japanese health insurance?
I really don't know. My wife is a professor in a local university, and through her union handles the insurance program for all professors in the university and their families.
Yeah.
And so that's how we make those particular payments.
Remarkable.
And then then we have the card, and we go into the hospital and make our appointments. Virtually no waiting time, maybe an hour. If you have to go into a hospital for a quasi-emergency type thing and you don't have an appointment, you may wait an hour and a half or 2 hours. So, you know, it's I can't, it's good.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, you know, the Japanese, they take care of their people. Their society is not yet dominated by billionaires the way ours is. Bill, thanks for the call from Osaka, Japan, and thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Great talking with you. And that's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. We'll be back with more of your thoughts on the news of the day, as well as mine, and more of the news of the day, too, right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Occupying the media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, it's the Thom Hartmann Program. Fair, but only slightly unbalanced. Welcome back. Steve, watching Free Speech TV on the Dish Network in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good afternoon, Tom. Nice hearing from the guy from Japan there.
Yeah.
His comments, you know what I've said over the years from me living in this retirement-type community with the Canadians. In fact, I even spoke to one when my buddy was out here the other day and up at the pool. Hadn't asked anybody for a couple of years, and they just laughed. They said, oh, my God, it's fantastic, you know.
So the Canadians who live in your retirement community, do they go back to Canada for health care?
Well, they only can be, I think, be down here for 6 months. I was just asking generally about that, but
yeah.
I've talked to you about that.
But they love Canadian health care.
Yeah, they love it. Totally love it. Anyways, I want to salute you for going into the belly of the beast yesterday. Glad you made it out of there.
Oh, it's fun. You know, I used to go on Fox a lot, and then I published Crash of 2016, and there's a chapter in the book about Roger Ailes and GOP TV and the Nixon White House and how that became Fox News. And right after that book came out, Fox stopped inviting me on. So this is the first time they have. I don't know if they've lifted the blacklist since Ailes died, or if it was a new producer and he didn't know. I don't know if they won't invite me back because I said Trump crime family or not. I'm fine if they do. I'm fine if they don't. But it was fun.
I guess time will tell. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Trump here.
Go for
it. And a question for you, then follow up if you can. Yeah, I don't know if you saw over the weekend, but Barry McCafferty, he's a high military person in the United States.
Former general, yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that, you know, he feels that Trump is a real danger to this country.
Whoa.
That was on, I believe, MSNBC. I might have seen it on CNN, too. And also, you know, his behavior with McCabe, it's really no surprise. I felt after he was capable of this type of stuff, this mafia-type stuff, just after observing him for a couple times. You know, I never watched The Celebrity Apprentice or nothing. I don't get into that stuff. But just seeing him, just observing him, his whole body language, everything, and the way he talks, you can kind of tell. And here's the question I got for you. You know, Trump eventually will have to leave office, either, you know, one way or the other. And the presidents, all the former presidents, they get together at functions maybe once or twice a year, various functions. You know, and it's a kind of a collegial, you know, a lot of camaraderie. Now you're going to have, you know, Barack, Bill Clinton, and Junior Bush in some ones in the future, and if Trump shows up too. I'd like to know how do you think this is going to go? I would certainly think these people would be pretty icy towards Trump.
These people being who?
You know, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton.
Oh, the other former presidents.
Yeah,
not just all the other people in the room and stuff.
No, just the presidents. You know, they're together at a couple of functions a year.
Yeah.
Them all, and they're all, you know, smiling with each other. You know, they're all very, very nice and happy with each other. Can you imagine throwing Trump in the mix of this? How do you think that's going to turn out?
It would be really interesting. Do you know of any events like this that he's coming to, Steve?
No.
Yeah.
Just when Trump leaves the office.
Yeah. Because the ex-presidents share something in common that no other American has, and that is the experience of having been president and all the, you know, both the joys and the agonies of that. And I don't know. I don't know if. Yeah, I'm not even sure Trump is doing what presidents normally do. I mean, he spends so much time on the golf course. I think he's largely delegated the whole job out. So, I don't know. Steve, it's an interesting question. I don't know the answer. Thanks a lot for the call, though. Welcome back. It is coming up on 11 minutes before the hour. Sam in Canton, North Carolina, listening to us on WPEK. Hey, Sam, what's up?
Well, I'm kind of following up on the statement that you made that you think when Donnie was a little boy, he pulled the wings off of flies.
Well, I said he's acting like one of those little boys who does that. Yeah. In the case of McCabe.
The way this firing of McCabe was such an act of cruelty that I think he's a sadist. You know, people are saying he's a sociopath. He can't feel and understand other people's suffering. I disagree. I think he's a psychopath. I think he enjoys causing other people's pain and suffering.
I think you're right.
Thin-skinned. He is completely just into revenge.
Well, look at how he's treating Jeff Sessions, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Or Rex Tillerson.
Look at the way he's treating everybody. He wrote this statement for Don Jr. and then put the statement put out. The press jumped on John Jr. and he threw Don Jr. under the bus. This was his own son. He enjoys hurting other people. He is the last person in the world we need to be commander-in-chief of our military.
Exactly. You don't want somebody who, I mean, this was the thing about Dwight Eisenhower when he came back from World War II. You know, he was the supreme commander of Allied forces in Europe during World War II. No small thing. He knew what war was. And even though he might have seen most of it from a command room, you know, rather than on the ground, but, you know, he's been there and done that. And he was so opposed to war. And this is so common an experience among returning veterans who are thoughtful people. You know,
absolutely.
You know, but Donald Trump has had no experience of war. He, you know, Corporal Bone Spurs, you know, he got his deferment. And
5 times.
Right, yeah. And instead he told Howard Stern that his big struggle, you know, his Vietnam was not getting venereal diseases with all those models that he was porking, you know, in the 60s. And so
there's something wrong with the man. I really honestly believe that he enjoys hurting people.
Yeah.
I'm 65. I'm a recovering alcoholic with 26 years under my belt. I've been in thousands of rooms with tens of thousands of people bearing their souls to each other. And, you know, I'm really not supposed to say, you know, he's a good man or a bad man, but I can still see the truth as I see it, and that is the truth as I see it. There's just something wrong with the guy, something bad wrong with the guy.
Yeah, I think your analysis is correct, Sam, and I think we can, if we look at his upbringing, we can probably figure out what it was, but I don't want to spend time trying to psychoanalyze Donald Trump. Sam, thanks for the call. Well said.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Frank in Caldwell, Idaho. Hey, Frank, it says here you want to disagree with me about McCabe. Do I have that right?
Oh, yeah, McCabe. Yeah, he should have been fired.
Maybe. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been. What I'm saying is that the way it was done was designed to maximize his humiliation and harm his pension.
He should have been humiliated.
They could have.
He should have been humiliated.
Because why?
Why? Because he's a traitor. He tried to frame the president.
No, well, actually, what Neil McCabe was fired for, I encourage you to go back and read the news reports, is he's the guy who advised Comey when they found Anthony Weiner's computer that Comey should release this to the public. And he wrote the press release. He and Comey leaked
he lied, though. He lied to the FBI, right?
No, the FBI has never used that word lied. They use it on Fox News, but the FBI has never used that word. But they said it was he was less than candid, and we don't know what that. We don't know what that means. But he's the guy who is responsible for Donald Trump being president. What Trump objects to is that his wife ran for Virginia's Senate as a Democrat and took a couple $100,000 from Terry McAuliffe's PAC.
Hey, his reasoning don't make a difference.
I beg your pardon?
His reasoning don't make a difference.
Whose reasoning doesn't make a difference about what?
Well, what he told the story about.
No, you know, if McCabe, Frank, I'm not disagreeing with you. If McCabe lied to the FBI, McCabe's in trouble. But you know, there's a way to do this through the normal administrative channels that would have taken a couple of more weeks, and they still could have stripped him of his pension. No problem. It just would have been low profile. It would have been done by the FBI the way the FBI does things. Instead, Donald Trump chose to make this a spectacle, and he chose to publicly humiliate this guy. And I think he did it as a way of saying to the other FBI agents who are currently investigating the Trump crime family, don't mess with me.
No, it isn't that at all. What it is he just sent the message is if you're going to be a traitor, you're going to come out bad.
Right, if you're going to be a traitor against Trump. If you're going to be a traitor against Trump. And in that, I think, as I said, I think Trump is wrong.
America. He was told, he made a vow to uphold the Constitution, right? And he went against it. Whatever his reason was.
You don't know that, Frank.
He went against it.
You don't know that.
Yeah, we do.
And neither do I.
Just as much as you know.
We do not know what he was not candid with the FBI about. We do not know.
Do you know that Trump's got a crime family going?
It may be, there's a fair amount of evidence. I would refer you to the New York Times today, to the articles about Jared Kushner's real estate deals.
I'm referring to what you said. Do you know he's got a crime family going?
I'm telling you that multiple members of Donald Trump's family appear to be involved in crime.
You don't want to answer that?
I just did.
Do you know he's got a crime family going? You say it all the time.
Yes, I do, Frank.
Okay, do you know it for a fact?
I can read the paper. Frank, this is silly. This is silly. You're not going to be able to out debate. It's silly. Kevin in Wilmington, Indiana. Hey, Kevin, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Longtime listener. You said earlier to a call-in that Nixon didn't interfere with the FBI. I just watched Mark Felt, the man who took down the White House, a recent film.
Right, who, by the way, had the same job Neil McCabe has. He was the #2 guy in the FBI.
It's a perfect segue, and that man is a hero to our country. He was busted for some attacks on the Weather Underground, etc. But he was a hero, and I think the young generation that someone earlier also mentioned, the young voters today, won't see that film. It's not getting attention. I think there are.
By that film, you're talking about the Watergate story with Woodward and Bernstein?
No, I'm talking about Mark Felt.
Oh, the movie about Mark Felt being Deep Throat.
The name of the movie is Mark Felt.
Oh, okay. I have not seen that movie, so I'm sorry.
Tom, it's just astonishingly good.
When did it come out?
Research. This year. It's in the video stores on DVD. I watched it.
Huh.
I had to watch all the special features. The director did lots of research.
Wow.
Lots, and Liam Neeson did research. He looks like Mark Felt.
Yeah.
Diane Lane plays the wife. It's a masterpiece. It's a bookend with All the President's Men.
Yeah.
Woodward and Bernstein would still be reporters had this man not loved his country more than the thought of losing his job or going to prison.
Right.
And saving democracy. And now we need public officials today to do. I wish they'd take Hoover's name off that building and put Robert Mueller or Mark Felt on it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And
I'll have to look for the movie, Kevin. Thanks for the heads up on that. I did not know it was out there even, and I'm guessing probably it can be rented on Amazon or Hulu or something. I'll check it out. Kevin, thanks for the heads up on that, and thanks for your call. And thank you all for being with us today. Boy, this day flew by fast. A lot going on. Trump is calling out drug dealers. Is he going to call out the tobacco industry whose drug kills 1,500,000 Americans every year? We'll see. Is he going to call out Big Pharma? We'll see. Anyhow, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires you. Get out there, get active, tag. You're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com. The Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeats.com.